Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you are well. And sorry for the long delay between this and the last stream, but I've been busy. Hope you are well. Let's see who we have around. Okay, we have 3 viewers. Not bad. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Yeah, sounds like you're trying to click on Iron Man there. Salam, Iron Man. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. How's everything going? How was your project on that app coming along, I wonder? Assalamu alaikum, Surah. And Mahbub. Salam. And Salam. And Rihanna, always good to see you. All right. Yeah, sorry again. Sorry for the delay between this and the last stream. Just been, I had a lot on my plate. A bit more free now. I might do another stream tomorrow, actually, because, why not? Just to make up for it. The second part of the video, yes, that's been well. You know what happens when you the longer you take to do this kind of video, these kind of things, the more notes you end up having, and then it just ended up becoming like this mash, and I'm not sure which. I have to basically reorganize things, because if I do it the way it is now, I'll probably end up going on for like 2 hours, and I don't want that. So I will be able to be more focused on it now. I have more time, so I hope soon. I know I've said that even it's been over a month, but I'll just have to do it when I can, to be honest. No other way for it. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. The reflection I have to share. I'll get done to StreamYard. I think having it like that would be okay. This or that, I think that's fine. All right, so inshallah, hopefully you'll do well in that biology exam. A-levels, huh? Excellent. Inshallah, you'll be okay. We'll do. All right, so I decided to talk about this. The idea came from somebody who sent me this question on email. So I thought, why not share my reply about it. So of course, this is the verses in the Qur'an which are used to say by some that God changed some of the Bani Israel into apes, into monkeys. And so, I thought, let me speak about this. So this is mentioned in 2 verses, 2 different surahs in the Quran, right? So the very first one is in the Medina surah. So it's, Surah Al-Baqarah, which was the first surah revealed in Medina. And of course, now it's talking about, it's addressing Bani Israel, right? Okay, it's addressing them directly. Okay, so we can also understand that this is later because in Mecca there were no Bani Israel, so it wasn't addressing them forthwith. Okay, there are some verses which still do that, but this is sort of like in Surah Al-Baqarah that there's a long series of verses where it's recounting to Bani Israel, recounting the favors that God did for them, recounting what happened in the past, etc. So it's given sort of like a history, and it's summarized. It's succinct, right? And it's just mentioning point after point quickly. So going through numerous points. Okay, and this is a rhetorical skill, right? That when you want to when there's a big general point you want to make, and there's a lot of evidence that you can say, you mention each point quickly. So now it's all there in the mind. This whole scene is there in the mind, and then you make the argument or you make the point or whatever it is. Okay, but this verse is also speaking. It says, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمْ الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ فَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. Right, and it's saying, and you already know, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمْ, and it could even be read, وَلَقَدْ عُلِّمْتُمْ, and you have already been taught, or knowledge has already been given to you, i.e. in this Quran before. We've already mentioned about this, right? الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ بِالسَّبْتِ, those who transgressed among you concerning the Sabbath, right? And we said to them, be apes despised. كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ فَجَعَلْنَاهَا نَكَالًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا وَمَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Now, I didn't mention this in the notes, but if you know, it's saying here, and we made it as a sort of like a deterrent and a punishment. And what does it mean? لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا. For what was before it, right, and what was after it. Okay, what preceded it and what went afterwards, and a lesson for the muttaqeen, and it was a lesson for the muttaqeen. Okay, even the muttaqeen among Bani Israel, as we shall see, right? So this incident with the Sabbath, right? It was a lesson for the muttaqeen among Bani Israel, and it was in the Kalan. It was in the Kalan, لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا, for what was before it and what was after it. Now this is just in this one verse. It doesn't mention what was before and what was after, right? But it's saying that this has already been mentioned, right? وَلَقَدْ عُلِمْتُمْ الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ فَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. There's two verses, by the way. In the screen here, it looks like it's one verse, but it isn't. The second part of the verse is this part, which says, فَجَعَلْنَاهَا, so we made it. This thing, we made it. And كَانَ لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهَا وَمَا خَلْفَهَا مَوْعِظَةً لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Okay, so the longer narrative, which this is nestled in, i.e., this thing about the Sabbath, okay, and be you apes despised. The longer narrative that's nestled inside, okay, is given in another surah. It was given in Mecca, okay, in Surah Al-Araf, and the verse itself is this one, right? So it says, فَلَمَّا عَتَوْا عَمَّا نُهُوا عَنْهُ قُلْنَا لَهُمْ كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. So when they were sort of insolent, ato means to like sort of like go out of bounds, sort of just ignore something, to ato or utuwan kabira, to just sort of be insolent and just go forth, to like ignore all warnings, ignore all like instructions, and ignore everything, right? Whether you're good or bad, you're insolent and just keep on going on. Whether somebody's trying to be good to you to get you to stop, or somebody's punishing you to get you to stop, you're just insolent. You just carry on. Okay? فَلَمَّا عَتُوا عَمَّا نُهُوا عَنْهُ. So when they were insolent about that which they were forbidden, we said, fine, be apes despised. كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. Right? So here the Sabbath isn't mentioned. Okay? The Sabbath isn't mentioned in this part, not like in the previous verse. Okay? Where it's mentioned the Sabbath. So this idea that here it's mentioned in the Sabbath, it's sort of like marking something else. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمْ الَّذِينَ اعْتَدَوْا مِنْكُمْ فِي السَّبْتِ. Those who transgressed on the Sabbath. This is like a marker for this group of people. Okay, which group of people are we talking about? The group which اعتدوا في السبت. Those who transgressed regarding the Sabbath. Okay, those who transgressed. That's like this. And this verse is a marker for them. Okay, and here it's not mentioned the Sabbath because it's part of the Sabbath part is given earlier, right, in a few verses earlier. But it's the same people. It's the same sort of group of people. Okay, it's the same sort of subgroup of people. So what you need to do is really look at the whole narrative, the whole picture. I'm not going to be able to do that here, of course, on the stream. So I just wrote up the brief notes. So in Surah Al-Araf, of course, is the long story of Musa. I think it's the longest in the Quran. Maybe Surah Al-Qasas has it longer, but I think one of the longest sort of uninterrupted passages, which gives the story of Musa all the way from Fir'aun right down to the golden calf and Musa going to the mountain. Okay, it's all there in Surah Al-Araf. Okay, so you've got the story of Musa of Bani Israel, right? The long thing, again, just summarizing. So yeah, the whole story from Fir'aun to Bani Israel, all the way down to the prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad, right? So we have that. I didn't put it here, but let me just open up my mushaf. So all the way up to the prophecy that I just want to read it out just to make sure we're all on the same page. Where when Musa واختار موسى قومه 70 رجلا, right, when Moses chose 70 of his people and they went up to the mountain, and then when it shook, Musa said, oh God, you could have destroyed us before and myself, etc., etc. This is just your fitna, which you guide who you will, send astray who you will. واكتب لنا في هذه الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة إنا هدنا إليك, right? And then God says, this is my punishment. My punishment I'll bring on whoever whoever I will or whoever wants it, right? ورحمتي وسعت كل شيء, and my mercy encompasses everything, so I'll give it to those who give the zakat, الذين يتقون, to those who have taqwa and pay the zakat, والذين هم بآياتنا يؤمنون, those who have faith in our signs. And then it says الذين يتبعون الرسول النبي الأمي, those who will follow the messenger, the Gentile prophet, or the prophet to the nations, right? That's what that means. And Nabi al-Ummi means the prophet to the nations, the prophet to the Gentiles, right? And then that continues, okay? And then the prophet is commanded, right? He used to say to all of mankind, I am the messenger of Allah to all of you all together, okay? And then we come back again to Musa, right? Come back again, continue to Musa, okay? And it says, firstly, in just one verse, it mentions that among the people of Musa are ummah who guide with haqq, right, and act justly with it, okay? So there are people like that among them, okay? وَمِنْ قَوْمِ مُوسَى أُمَّةٌ يَهْدُونَ بِالْحَقِّ وَبِهِ يَعْدِلُونَ, right? And then it talks about how they were split up into nations, into tribes. وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ اثْنَتَا عَشَرَةَ أَصْبَاطًا أُمَمًا, right? They were cut up into 12 various ummahs or sub-tribes or nations, okay? So they were asbatan umaman. Right now it just says asbatan umaman. Later on we say just ummahs, right, around the earth. And this is of course when they were divided up by and then it just continues relating the favors they were given, the man salwa, etc., and just how some of them just kept on acting unjustly, okay? They kept on acting unjustly, okay? وأنزلنا عليهم المن والسلوى كلوا من طيبات ما رزقناهم. Then it says وما ظلمونا ولكن كانوا أنفسهم يظلمون. They were not unjust to us, they were unjust to themselves, and they were unjust between themselves as well, as in other verses. And then when it was said to them, enter this qarya, and then they changed the word. They said, you and your Lord go and fight. We will sit here and spend 40. This is not in this surah, but all of this has happened, right? You have all of this happening, and then they changed the word that they were told to say. فَبَدَّلَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ قَوْلًا غَيْرَ الَّذِي قِيلَ لَهُمْ. So they were punished for that. They received the punishment. So الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ, those who were unjust among them. Again, it's always talking about some of them, a group among them, okay? And then it says, then it comes to that verse, okay? It talks about the story of those who went to excess with the Sabbath, and we'll mention that fully later. And then it mentions, okay, another ummah among them who would say to others among them, right, why are you bothering spreading guidance? Why are you bothering spreading guidance to these Gentiles when God is just going to punish them anyway, basically? And the other group, the righteous group among them, are saying, as an excuse to their Lord, and so that maybe they will get guidance. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ, maybe they will become people of taqwa, right? And then the verse says, but then when they forgot what they had been reminded of, so that of course the other group, not the group who were wanting to discourage fasad, right? The other group who said, why are you bothering to discourage people? Why are you teaching people, about righteousness and taqwa? Why are you bothering? No, the other group who forgot about that, what did God do to them? God punished them, okay? فلما نسوا ما ذكروا به أنجينا الذين ينهون عن السوء. We saved those who used to discourage evil, and we took those who were unjust by punishment, okay, because of their fisq, okay. So again, here, that's this part which I wrote. Then God says, when they forgot what they were warned, he saved the former group, the ones who used to discourage the fasad and the evil, and he punished the latter. Now finally comes this verse, which is the verse 166, which is saying that when those who had been punished, so these were ones who had already been punished, okay, and before they'd had the example of the Sabbath, and before that the man and the Salwa, and before that etc. Right, before that the golden calf, and all of this stuff, okay. When these people who they had just been punished, they still went even to more. They just carried on in the insolence. Okay, they carried on in insolence with regards to what they had been warned about. God said to them, "Be monkeys despised." Okay, be then monkeys despised. So you see what's happening here. You've got this long narrative, okay, of Bani Israel as in sort of a number of camps, and the righteous among them, and then among them those who just kept on being just being insolent and just carrying on doing what they were always doing, right? Whether they were shown mercy and kindness, or whether they were punished, or whether others among them, spoke out. They just kept on, okay? So you have that, okay? So why is that all important? Because what is being shown here, what I wrote, isn't just one crime, okay? Isn't the incident of breaking the Sabbath and that's it, okay? Especially when you combine it with the other verse as well, right? The mentioning of the Sabbath in the other verse, the first verse we looked at, is just as a marker for this mentality, this group, this ummah among them, okay? What has been followed through all of these verses is a certain subgroup, a certain ummah among them who again and again had an unbending sort of insolence, an inability to keep the guidance, inability to keep the guidance. And the reason for it seems to be endemic in how they view the deen, in how they have take the deen, right? And that's why the Sabbath is a very good marker for them, right? They transgress with regard to the Sabbath, all right? It's just sort of like mimicry, okay? Mimicry, right? This is why, I put the title or the picture on this, right? Monkey see, monkey do, right? They think they just have the Sabbath and they just have to keep to it, and they just carry on like a train, right? I'm just going to keep imitating this, keep doing the same thing, okay, as my forefathers. I'm going to keep to the Sabbath, right? Transgressing it with regard to it anyway, right? And finding tricks to get around it, and like the famous thing that's known about them, right? Not forgetting about the spirit of the law and keeping to the letter of the law, and even finding loopholes in the letter of the law. Okay. So again, these things are shown us, and so let me get back to what I wrote here. And the reason seems to be it's endemic in how they view the religion, and things like the Sabbath, which is shown up and tested in verse 163. Right. So here's that verse. It says, "وَاسْأَلْهُمْ عَنِ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ حَاضِرَةَ الْبَحْرِ." Okay. And ask them about the town that was by the sea when they transgressed in the matter of the Sabbath, when their fish came to them openly on the Sabbath day, and when they didn't have the Sabbath, it wouldn't come to them. Okay. Thus did we, test them, put them to trial regarding that which كذلك نبلوهم بما كانوا يفسقون, by that which they were fasiq, a lot of like wicked, I suppose, with regard, right? Not really disobedient. They were fusaq in terms of this sort of like this hypocrisy. Okay, remember إن المنافقين هم الفاسقون, right? In the Quran, that the fisq and nifaq have a very strong link. Okay, so it's just sort of like it's a nifaq, hypocritical thing that they were doing, right? And so they were tested with it, right? They were all the fish would come to them on the Sabbath, and none would come to them without it, to see how would they behave. Would they now just like stick to the letter of the law, right, and just forget about the spirit of the law? And if they stuck to the letter of the law, and now they're going to just find these loopholes around it, right? So what they would then do is, I think in some of the stories, which we don't need to go into that here, but it's that same idea. So they would put out their fishing nets before the Sabbath and collect it after the Sabbath, right? They would try to find ways around it like that. Okay. So this is them, right? And then The next verse, like I said, وَإِذْ قَالَتْ أُمَّةٌ مِّنْهُمْ لِمَ تَعِظُونَ قَوْمًا اللَّهُ مُهْلِكُهُمْ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُهُمْ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا. And when a community among them, okay, ummah among them, okay, this is again the same, this ummah among them are asking, why do you advise or warn people whom Allah is about to destroy or punish with a severe punishment? Why are you trying to teach people about deen or about taqwa, about this? Why bothering? They would say, so this other section of them, they would say, to be absolved before Allah, so to do our job basically, right? We are supposed to be beacons of light for humanity. Allah has given us this knowledge. We're supposed to spread it to others, to the Gentiles. Yes, they're supposed to be guided towards taqwa as well, right? And so that perhaps they may gain taqwa. معذرة إلى ربهم ولعلهم يتقون. Okay, معذرة إلى ربكم ولعلهم يتقون. معذرة to your Lord meaning who? Your Lord and our Lord, the Ben Israel, right? Is what we're supposed to do, our Rabb. Okay, and so that these people may gain taqwa. Okay. And this is similar to, it's echoed in another verse, right? This is in Surah Al Imran. It says, وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِن تَأْمَنْهُ بِقِنْطَارٍ يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ وَمِنْهُمْ إِن تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ. Okay, and among the people of the scripture is the one who, if you trust, you entrust him with a great amount of wealth, he will return it to you. Okay, and among them is he who, if you entrust him even with a single dinar, he will not return it to you unless you constantly stand over the person. So again, it's showing this split. There's the people who understand, okay, that they are supposed to act righteously with other people. Okay, it's not about Gentile and Jew. Okay, and there are other people who don't understand that. They think the law which is sent to them, and how God praises them in the scripture and how they were chosen, because they were chosen, right? It just lets them do what they want. Okay, and it says here that is because they say there is no blame upon us concerning the Gentiles, unlearned here really Gentiles, right? ذلك بأنهم قالوا ليس علينا في الأميين سبيل. Okay, ويقولون على الله الكذب وهم يعلمون, and they say about Allah what is a lie, and they know. Okay, they know. So again, you have the same thing which is shown here, this divide, right? People who think they have the God-given right to act how they want. Okay, they think that's part of the law. Okay, they can act this way towards the Gentiles, towards other people, and these are the same people who are going to be what? Who are going to be sticking to the letter of the law and forgetting the spirit of it. The same people of the Sabbath. Okay. And there's also another verse where it says, وَغَرَّهُمْ فِي دِينِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَ مَا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ. They were deluded in their religion by what they invented. They invented things in the religion, and these things have deluded them. Okay. But anyway, getting back to this verse. Already put that. Yeah. Okay. So وَقَالَتْ أُمَّةٌ مِّنْهُمْ لِمَ تَعِظُونَ قَوْمًا and when a community among them said, why do you advise people or warn them when Allah is going to destroy them? And others said, to be absolved before your Lord, and that perhaps these people may gain taqwa. And yet still despite that, I missed the verse here, I think. So the verse after this says, فلما نسوا ما ذكروا به أنجينا الذين ينهون عن السوء وأخذنا الذين ظلموا بعذاب بئيس بما كانوا يفسقون. And did I actually put it? No, I didn't. Sorry, I forgot. So there's another verse here after this, which basically says, so when they forgot what they had been reminded of, so this group of people forgot what they had been reminded of. So the dhikr, they're supposed to be people of dhikr. Yeah. What did God do? أَنْجَيْنَا الَّذِينَ يَنْهُونَ عَنِ السُّوءِ. We saved those people who used to discourage evil. Okay. So these people, right? The people who are here are saying at the end, this group, God saved them and punished that former group. This former group, the one who's saying, why are you even bothering to teach other people, to warn other people? These are people who were punished for that. Okay, for not following through with that covenant, right? They are given knowledge. They're supposed to show it to other people. So they were punished for that. Okay. And yet still, even after that punishment, okay, they still after that punish. The next verse, which is the verse of the be apes, it says, فَلَمَّا عَتُوا عَمَّا نُهُوا عَنْهُ, they still transgressed even after that. So they were punished and then they transgressed even more, right? They did that utuwan kabira, right? And they just kept on carrying on. It's like it didn't do anything. They got punished, it didn't do anything. Just like before, it didn't do anything. The example of the Sabbath didn't do anything. Okay? They just kept on following the same pattern as their forefathers. They keep doing the same thing they have seen their previous members do, even though they were punished for it. Okay? And so what more can be done with them? What more can be done for them? Right? Favors didn't work, punishment didn't work, being given a trial for the greatest expression of their core issue, the Sabbath, that didn't work. Okay, their peers' example didn't work. They're being punished again, didn't work. Nothing worked with them. Okay, because this ummah of them has become a monkey see, monkey do ummah. Right? That's what they've chosen for themselves. And so, what does the verse say? So when they were insolent about what they had been forbidden, warned, we said to them, "Fine, be apes, despised." And it's that's the sort of like tone, or how do I put it? The way that it's being said, basically, it's not being said that we're transforming you into apes or monkeys. Okay, this verse is a sort of like I'm washing your hands off them. Right? We've tried everything with you. Okay, you want to act like monkeys? Be monkeys. You want to act like apes? Be apes. Okay, it's saying fine. Then if you insist on acting or being no better than monkeys, then be monkeys. Right? Kunu qiratan. Right? Be monkeys, despised. Okay, because normal monkeys even are not despised. Right? So how do we definitely know that it's not a physical transformation? Because of the next verse. Okay, the verse is obviously not saying that God physically transforming them into monkeys. Why is that obvious? Because of the next verse. Okay, they are clearly still human and will remain so. Okay, the next verse says, "With ta'azzana rabbuka liyab'athanna alayhim ila yawm al-qiyamati man yasumuhum su al-'adhab." Okay, and mention when your Lord declared that He will. Now, the qira'ah here, I haven't checked any other qira'at, right? But one way this could be read is with ta'azzana rabbuka layub'athanna. So in the passive, that upon them, against them will always rise up, okay, a people, okay, against them will always rise up until the day of judgment, okay, a people who will afflict them with the worst torment, okay, with the worst severe torment. That these people who act like this, the people who are like monkeys, okay, people who are like what? Like monkeys, the kunu qiradatan khasi, these people, okay, God will God will, or against them will always rise up people who will inflict severe punishment against them. Okay, again, severe punishment. Inna rabbaka sari'ul iqab wa innahu laghafurur rahim. Okay, truly your Lord is swift in punishment and He is also forgiving merciful. Okay, so here now God is not saying He's going to punish them anymore. Okay, in terms of what's going to happen here, right? You can say this is okay. Inna rabbaka sari'ul iqab. But that punishment has already been given to them. Now what's happening is people who will come up against them and punish them. And why is that? Why will people always come up and punish or torment this ummah, this ummah with this mentality among Bani Israel, among the Jews? Why? Because they won't desist in their transgression. Okay, their transgression will of course be dhulm, and it will be injustice upon other people. Okay, when God is the whole point of messengers and books being sent is to establish justice. So these people in their transgressions are of course going to be transgressing against others, and they do it literally against others. I mean, that's how they view the world, right? Jews and Gentiles. We can do all of these things to the Gentiles, but don't do it to a Jew, right? And they have this mentality, right? So there will always be people who will persecute them for that and punish them for that. It's just natural. It's like once they've acted that way to enough people are just people will be fed up with it and rise up. I'm not saying that they will do it proportionately. Okay, there will be justice. It won't be justice often. It won't often be justice. Okay, it'll often be people just becoming this atmosphere of aggro against them. whether it's defined or undefined, the reasons there or not reasons there. Some of them exaggerated, some of them lies. There will be something. But because the sort of the seed of that, they have it within their how they view their deen. Okay, the seed of how they it's in there, it's in how they view their deen, and so that it comes out in how they will act against other people, and so that will always bring towards them this kind of this aggro, right? So that's it. So these are ummah among them, okay? They will have these religious dogmas that will allow them to transgress against others, okay, against the Gentiles, against other people, okay? And their sign is their excess in the Sabbath. Their sign is their excess in the Sabbath. Till this day, you'll find them being excessive in the Sabbath, okay? With regard to the Sabbath, they will be like monkeys, okay? They'll be like monkeys, okay? Just acting it out, okay? Completely oblivious of the spirit of it. What is it supposed to be? Okay, they should be willing to break the Sabbath to help a poor person, to break the Sabbath to I don't know to save a life, to break the Sabbath to do these sort of things. Right? They're oblivious to what the purpose of the Sabbath is. Right? So they will continue until the day of judgment with these corruptions in their deen, okay, like monkeys imitating their forefathers with no understanding of the spirit of the law. And so people will always rise up against them, okay, and persecute them for it once their transgressions become widespread and known among the other people, who will always be a majority, right? I mean, they're not a big people. And I have here this image a friend of mine sent to me. So this is a clipping of something that happened during the Second World War, the Nazi times, right? Okay, so when Jews around the world boycotted Nazis, okay, guess who were, it says at the bottom, guess who was selling goods over in the Middle East nations, okay? And it says at the bottom, how else the anti-Hitler boycott was broken, okay? And this was the fake valor. So this was a group of them. So yes, Jews around the world were boycotting the Nazi party, but not all of them. You had these quote unquote qiratat and khasi'in, these despised monkeys among them, even within things, who were trading with them. Okay, they didn't care about the blockade, didn't care about the solidarity of the other Jews around the world for what was going on. This is what they did. Okay, and it says here, so Nazi writer on the Jewish ship, etc., Jerusalem, February 21st, Jewish Telegram Agency, whatever that says. When the Jewish-owned steamer Tel Aviv something entered a Palestine port today for the first time, the first passenger to land was a Nazi correspondent, Dr. George Martini. He was sent to Palestine by whatever that is, the Volksjahr or something, anyway, the official party says. Anyway, it's here. If anybody wants to read that, they can screenshot it later. Okay, but it shows here, okay, Istanbul, port authorities were completely puzzled when a small ship appeared in the harbor flying the Nazi swastika flag and completely manned by Jewish sailors, from the captain down to the cabin boy. Okay, port officials thought that it was a joke and questioned the crew closely. They found that the ship was named Atid, which means future in Hebrew, and had been built in a Hamburg shipyard for delivery to Jewish owners in Haifa. Okay, the captain explains that only when the vessel reached Haifa could the Nazi flag be hauled down and the blue-white Zionist flag hoisted up. But anyway, so that's this kind of example. But the very next verse after that just reminds, okay, lest anybody smears all of Bani Israel with this, the next verse reminds, okay, and it just sort of backtracks and uses the same vocabulary near the beginning, وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, this time, right? And it says that, that there are different nations, there are different ummahs spread out across the earth, okay? وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا. Okay, and we have divided them up or scattered them out throughout the earth as in ummahs. Okay, there are various ummahs. Of them are the righteous. مِنْهُمُ الصَّالِحُونَ. Okay, there are among them the righteous, and some of them are less than that. Okay, some of them are less than that, and some of them are right at the bottom as being qiradat and khasi'in. Okay, and we tested them with the good and the bad that perhaps they would return. And lastly, just a reminder, if anybody, because some people think, okay, this is just I'm sort of like apologetics, that what do you mean? The Quran is clearly saying that that these were turned into monkeys and apes. Okay, if they were turned into monkeys and apes, what does this mean? Like I said, that they would that against them would come would come punishments until Judgment Day. Is God doing this to monkeys? Are there monkeys that we see that people are persecuting? No, it's not. It's talking about people. They're still people. Okay, these are still people. But the Quran routinely speaks and accuses those who act less than human of being less than human. Okay, those who don't see, don't hear, don't think. Okay, they are like cattle, like donkeys, like dogs. Okay, it's in the same vein that other verses say, for example, we made them into apes, we made them into pigs, we made them into abd al-taghut, slaves of taghut. Okay, and in the same way, we have this one, which is just a change in rhetoric. It's just a change in rhetoric. It says, be apes to those who are receiving direct, specific guidance from God, right? So, while you could say this about, humanity in general, that among them are those who act like cattle, among them who act like this. But if you are engaged with somebody right in front of you and you're trying to instruct them again and again directly, you're speaking to them, okay, and ultimately they they descend to always just acting like an ape or acting like, you can say to them, okay, be an ape, fine. You want to be like that, be like that, because now you're sort of like an address direct, okay, because now it's more direct. You've been given direct instructions. Okay, so they were Ben Israel received very direct instructions from Allah, right? Specific divine care and orientation. Yet this subgroup of them chose to act like animals. Okay, so to them it's ultimately said, fine, you want to act like that, be like that, right? كونوا قردة خاسئين, and that's it. How long did that take? Let's see. I didn't do a sound check, did I? 37 minutes. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right. So let's see. I don't have anybody backstage. Let me just check for the comments. If anybody has any questions about that. And remember, as always, the purpose of this stream is for anybody to come on and also share their insights, their tadabbur of the Quran. It doesn't always have to be just me sharing something. I'll be very happy to have anybody else come on. But who do we have here? We have a new name here, Roxanne. Hello, Roxanne. Hello, hi, Hassan. I don't see. Who's Hassan? Hassan Radwan. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, Hassan. Hope you are well. And now I'm glad back. Thank you. Kirito game. That sounds Japanese, doesn't it? All right. Okay. I might make a stream tomorrow as well about something else which piled up. There was the Dhul Qarnayn and some very interesting things, right? So somebody had asked me a while back to check out the idea that what the Quran is recounting is the sort of not the historical Alexander the Great, but the mythical Alexander the Great. Okay, so this is from what's his name? I'm going to butcher his name, but Dr. Thomas Tesi. Anyway, he came on to that guy Myth Vision podcast, Derek, and also on Tyrone Pool to just speak about that, and it was very interesting. So somebody had asked me to give my thoughts. My thoughts on it. I'd never looked into it, to be honest. I'd looked into the issue of Dhul Qarnayn, which it doesn't matter who it is, right? Again, in terms of the Quranic narrative, it doesn't matter who it is. So it's sort of like this, the squabble over is it Cyrus the Great, is Alexander the Great. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter for what the Quran is showing. In the end, this was a question asked, and it's only request for a story in the Quran which was given, right? So this was asked. يسألونك عن ذي القرنين, right? Some people are asking about that, right? Some people are saying to me, why does God mention Alexander the Great? Well, God didn't choose to speak about Alexander the Great. He responded to a request, right? Some people were asking, and the story was related. So the only story I think which comes out like that, and the only figure who has it's a title, not a name, right? He's given this anyway. I'll talk about this tomorrow. So you have that, and some people say that this it was a myth of Alexandria. It wasn't the actual real Alexander, but the one that comes from the Syriac legend, which isn't the same as the romance stories, which are the Greek stories that were put together later after that. Anyway, maybe I'll talk about that later. Thank you, Hassan, and good to see you. I think I actually saw something. Let me check that. I did, I think, see a notification from, what's it called? Yes, with a little picture on the side of Haniah Chan, right? So he wrote something about, what's it called? How to create a new religion. Yeah, I mean, Haniah Chan, wow. Very bizarre. I've spoken about him before, not like derail him or anything, but I think it was Mufti Abu Layth who spoke about him somewhere, and I put a comment about that. The thing that worries me about Haniah Chan is, first of all, how I don't understand how that many people are sort of taken in by what he says. I just don't get it. But what worries me about him is that it's sort of like the last, for those who have been trying to sort of like make sense of Islam, of the Deen, and then they sort of like it's typically what I found anyway, they'll be coming from the very traditional, especially because Salafism has taken over the world, and hasn't it in the past, however, and so they will see the problems of that and want to break away from that and find it very, very difficult or harsh, whatever their problems are. And so they will slowly try to find an alternative, and sort of they give up on a lot of things. And ultimately, what worries me is somebody might come to basically Haniah Chan and say, okay, this is my last ditch attempt, right? My last ditch attempt to try to salvage my faith by sort of like understanding only the Quran, and I will use Haniah Chan. And ultimately, I think that I don't see how that would work out very well. And then the person would just say, okay, this, he might go along with it for a while, but then say, okay, this makes no sense. So the Quran makes no sense. It's all useless, it's all nonsense, and just forget about it. Which ultimately might be better for them, to be honest. It might seem weird to say that, but it might be better for them. The goals of the Deen can be arrived at sometimes much easier without the Deen, without the religion. Getting in your way of just just being human. Anyway, so essentially you are saying that the verses tell us that a group from among the Jews will always be the ones acting like monkeys. How would we distinguish them? Wouldn't this lead to anti-Semitism? Well, certainly some people could take it that way, I'm sure. But like I said, the verses they kept on mentioning, right? Ummatun minhum, some of them, right? In the beginning and at the end. Like I said, right at the last verse, right after the verse which says Kunu qiradatan khasi'in, right after that it says what? It says وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا, and we cut them into the earth. We spread them out or divided them up among around the world, around the earth. أُمَمًا مِنْهُمُ الصَّالِحُونَ, among them are salihun, and minhum duna ذَلِكَ, and some of them are not like that. And you should be able to tell somebody who's acting as a salih and from somebody who isn't. Okay, You don't need a specific sign about them, okay? But maybe just looking at how they behave on the Sabbath is a good indication of that. I mean, I don't know much about the Jewish faith, or the Sabbath and how it's supposed to be. But I can guarantee you, if you were to take the Sabbath as being something which is divinely ordained, then it is something which is supposed to increase people in ihsan, in taqwa, and being, these sort of things, right? The very purpose of the religion, of deen, of getting closer to God, right? Of justice. It's supposed to be something like that, right? So if you find people who will allow injustice to happen for the sake of the Sabbath, then they're like monkeys. They're behaving like monkeys. Okay, that sort of idea. Sorry, I can't seem to make this go away. Right? If somebody is going to drown, right, and somebody says, "Sorry, I can't save you to Sabbath," that's a monkey. Okay, if somebody's about, that's all. It's just basic. It's not rocket science. Okay, and it doesn't mean you have to start calling them monkeys as well, or this, right? But it's the idea. It's the same idea that's all over the Quran, where it talks about people not being able to hear, to think, to see, to feel. That they're being subhuman. Okay, that they're being subhuman. Okay, and it's just talking about this group. I mean, it doesn't have to be even you don't have to mention them in that way. It's the whole, in Arabic, maybe I forgot to say this. So, like in English, you talk about somebody who's being like a parrot, right? Being like a parrot and just repeating what other people say, right? In Arab and sort of Arab tradition and stuff like that, generally you talk about the monkey, right? Even like the like parents will say affectionately to their kids, "You little monkey," right? Now, even I'm remembering that song now, right? 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, yeah. But I get it, you little monkey, okay. Well, why do parents say that, like affectionately with kids? Because like they copy, right? Kids copy what you do, right? So and that's the main in sort of Arab sort of like ideas, right? The main thing about a monkey, the most notable quality about them is al-muhaka, is that they copy, they imitate, right? They imitate, right? So when the verse is saying that, you don't have to translate it directly into somebody's face and say to them, "You monkey." You can just say, you're just imitating, right? You're doing these religious practices as just empty imitations, right? Empty imitations. And we have the same thing, to be honest. Remember, the Prophet said that this ummah, right, in hadith, which I certainly accept, maybe some of you don't, he said this ummah will follow the way of those before them, right? Step by step, cubit by cubit, etc. Among us are also monkeys. Among us in the Muslim ummah, we also have qiradat and khasi'in, right? We have people like that. Okay, it's just imitation, right? The deen for them is just an imitation. They forget about the thing. I mean, that's why I like Hassan al-Maliki's focus on the ghayat al-Qur'an, right? What's the purpose of all of the Quran? What's it pushing towards? Okay, there's ghayat, there's taqwa, there's adl, there's qist, right? There's ihsan, right? A very big one. And taqwa, the central ghaya. Okay, they're supposed to get you somewhere. Okay, the salah, okay. A lot of Muslims, when it comes to salah, they're qiradat and khasi'in. They're just, I did that video about waylun lil musallin, right? You had that person who was saying, that missing one salah, right, is what, you're worse than a rapist, you're worse than a murderer, you're worse than a thing, you're worse than this in the eyes of Allah. Yeah, it's just a monkey. That's monkey talk, right? Missing one salah, really? Right? That's completely bereft of the purpose of salah, right? Completely bereft. Waylun lil musallin. Woe to the musallin, right? Waylun lil musallin al-qiradat al-khasi'in, if you want, you could say it that way, right? We have it in our ummah. I'm sure the Christians have it in their ummah. It's not something unique to the Jewish people. Okay, it's not unique to them. By the way, have you come across Dr. Haniah Chan? Yeah, I was just, yeah, I was mentioning that. Yeah, Haniah Chan. Like I said, he's a strange one. To be honest, the first video that I came across his was a good one, and I forget which one it is because I was trying to find it among all of the other stuff, right? So it was actually a very good one. It was shared on the subreddit, and I thought, wow, this is pretty nice. And I was doing these. I had started doing these Caravan of Contemplation. So I went to his channel. I said to him, hey, Dr. Hani, really like this. Listen, because at the time I was still trying to get more and more people to actually come on and actually, share contemplation. And I really don't and didn't and don't want it to be just me all the time. So I said to him, why didn't you come on? I'm doing this Caravan of Contemplation, right? Would you consider coming on and just sharing this idea of yours? And he took it in a very bizarre way. He thought I wanted to interview him at first, and then there was something about. I got the impression that he was like, yeah, you can interview me. We'll arrange something. I got some weird impression that it was like he wanted me. It was like almost going to be like a paid gig or something. I don't know, to be honest. Maybe I'm misremembering. But I got this weird, and I was like, no, no, no. I replied, no, it's not going to be an interview or anything like that. I just have this stream, and since you're, have a channel about the Quran as well, and my stream is just supposed to let anybody come along and just express an idea. Would you like to come on and just jump on and just 5 minutes, 2 minutes, even less if you want, it doesn't matter, and just share something. And he basically either he never replied or he declined. I forget what it was. And then I started to see some of his other videos, and I was like, whoa. I didn't get it. The whole thing, the Abrahamic locution, and Ismail is really the Prophet Muhammad, and this person is really this person. And people have asked me since then, and I've said, look, most of the stuff which he talks about is quite irrelevant. Let's say, for example, that Ismail in the Quran is the Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so what? So what? Okay, well, what does that change? Nothing from what I see when I listen to him. Nothing from what I see is discussing of guidance in terms of this. What's the Quran supposed to be? It's supposed to be a book of guidance, not about learning the true history or the true stories or the true this. The stories are supposed to be for guidance. It doesn't matter who the real person is and the real person that is. Let's say Ismail is Prophet Muhammad, and it changes nothing from what he is. I don't understand. I really don't understand what is he trying to do, and I don't get it. So I haven't looked at him since then, but I don't get it. So that's all I have, with regards to him. I don't like visiting people's intentions, so I don't know. I just don't get him. To be honest, I just don't get him. That's a username, huh? Kafir means atheist, non-Muslim. Kafir means atheist, not non-Muslim, nor Shia Muslim. Well, I'd say kafir doesn't mean atheist either. I joined some of you remember this. I joined the Aaron Ra when he was doing his reading through the Quran with mostly ex-Muslims. I joined towards the end when they were doing the last few surahs. I actually saw it. I got it from a discussion on another stream. That brother used to come on here. What's his name? Muji, Perfect Da'wah. So because he's come on so many times, on my stream, I wanted to sort of return the favor and go on his stream. And in the comment section, I saw two people discussing. One thing they were discussing about was Aaron Ra's ongoing reading through the Quran. So I thought, hey, that's interesting. Let me join up. So I joined a little bit on that. What was I? Why did I start speaking about that? Oh yes, kafir means atheist. So one of the things which puzzles people, like the very beginning of the Quran, right? those who have kafaru, it's the same to them, whether you warn them or don't warn them, they will never have faith, right? So why is that? Well, then, one thing I mentioned to them, look, it's a pity you're basically almost finished with the Quran, but you have to understand that there's really no atheists in the Quran. There are no atheists in the Quran. The Quran does not, atheists don't come into view, right? There were no atheists in Arabia at the time. Every kafir in the Quran believes in God, right? Every kafir believes in God in the Quran. There's not somebody in the Quran who doesn't believe in the existence of God. There was probably one exception, which is Fir'aun, who considered himself to be divine as well. But the atheism doesn't come into it. Atheism is a very modern thing, right? And yes, some people argue and talk about how among the Greeks there were atheists, and among these were yes, there were very minor numbers of atheists throughout history, but really atheism is more of a modern phenomenon, right? And then the Quran certainly doesn't address atheism at all. What are poor qualities of monkeys? I think I answered that. It's just basically about copying, right? Like an English monkey see, monkey do. That same idea carries over quite well into Arabic. Pig, very similar. Gluttony, desires, lusts, to just be involved in that sort of thing. Okay, I don't understand Haniah either. Yeah. And see, I know a lot of Muslims who are disillusioned with Orthodox in Islam and are looking for alternative interpretations. The problem is that this makes fertile ground for misguidance. It does. Absolutely. I mean, I suppose it depends what you mean by misguidance. It depends in a way if you talk about like most people who are disillusioned by Orthodox Sunni Islam, I would gather that they'd be mostly disillusioned because of the negative things in it, right? If that's why they're disillusioned by it, then they would hopefully move to something which has a lot less negative elements. That would be an increase in guidance, even if it means having bizarre ideas. I mean, Haniah Chan and the ideas he has. A positive thing is I don't think he'd find many among his sort of followers who would consider it. The things that the things which Islam has right now, as Orthodox Sunni Islam has now, as real problems in the world, right? Promoting of child marriage, death to apostates, idea of a jihad against the world, these things. As much as I don't get Haniah Chan, but the problem is I haven't seen what he never mentions anything which I see which is pushing towards guidance or towards misguidance. It's all just sort of like, I would say, misinformation. Right? Misinformation is not the same as misguidance. Right? That's the way I see it. We're talking about just his. Hopefully, I don't see that he would be pushing his followers towards, like stoning to death, for example. I don't think he would condone that. Is that a better thing or a worse thing? In terms of what is actionable on the ground, yeah, I mean, I would swap 1,000 people who made takfir on me. I'd rather have them than one person who says I'm a Muslim, but he should be whipped, for something. For example, me like speaking negatively about a Sahabi or something like that, right? Yeah, call me a kafir, but don't say I should be whipped, right? Or the person who says that non-Muslims, Muslim and non-Muslims can't inherit from each other. So a Muslim a father can't if their children become non-Muslim apostates, then the children can't inherit. No, right? I'd rather have somebody like saying that Ismail in the Quran is Muhammad, and allowing children to inherit from their parents, no matter the religion. I'd prefer that than to have somebody, say that, that Ismail is Ismail and Muhammad is Muhammad, and say that parents and that لا يتوارث ملتان, that two religions can't inherit from each other. No, the inheritance in the Quran has got nothing to do with religion. Well, whatever religion you are, your parents or your children, it doesn't matter. You inherit, of course you inherit. Okay, but that's another thing that was put in there. Anyway. So yeah, I think that's all. The problem is misguidance. Are you going from frying pan to the fire? Yeah, so it can be like that. I definitely agree. لا يهلك إلا الدهر. لا يهلك إلا الدهر. Yeah, I still see that these people believe in God. That the biggest issue in the Quran is not the disbelief in God, but the disbelief in the resurrection. Right? The Arabs did not believe in the resurrection mostly. Okay, that's why you could say that they did not believe and they denied it, and the only thing that will ever destroy us is a dahar, which is why they wanted to have renowned. Right? A lot of the Arabs, they wanted to have, their names live on by their renown, by what they did, by that sort of thing. Oh, sorry, I have. I'm going to add somebody who's been waiting patiently backstage. Almost forgot you. Let me add you on. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum assalam. How are you?
Good, brother.
Excellent.
You mentioned Quran does not about atheists, does not describe about atheists or mention about atheists.
Yeah.
I think full of Quran there are a lot of thing about mention about atheists who disbelieve in God.
Yeah, it's translated
many
like that.
verses.
Yeah, it's translated like that. I will say that it's translated as that. But what is the Arabic that's being used?
What the?
Kafir, right? Kafir. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disbeliever. A disbeliever is like they do not hear, they do not see, they do not, they are done like a worse than cattle.
Yeah, I mean, all of us, we don't see God, we don't hear God. I mean, what don't they see? It's not talking about
No,
that sort of thing, right?
no. I think you misunderstand the verse. About the cattle Allah talk about. Those are atheists. They have an eye and they cannot see. They have
Yeah, no, I understand. What do you mean they don't see? What don't they see?
I mean, they see, but they do not see God, the sign in who created this, how this come about. They do not see those things. They do not ponder over those things. That's what Allah talking about.
Yeah, they don't see, right? So in many ways, they are blind to simple things, to guidance, right? But it's not being blind to the existence of God or not the existence of God, right? All of the kuffar in the Quran, right? They say they believe in God.
No. Kufar,
Okay, sure.
itself mean those who deny God and those who do the bad thing.
So, for example, you have the verse, وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. What will they say?
What's that?
Like the verses where, it's saying, if you ask them, who created the heavens and the earth? Right? You know those verses? وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ, and if you ask them, مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, if you ask them, who created the heavens and the earth? What do they say? لَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهِ. Right?
That's the mushrik. They are talking about the mushrik. That was talking about the mushrik.
No, also the kuffar. There are verses like that where it's talking about the kuffar.
No, that's what's about the mushrik. When they worship idols, but when ask them who created this heaven and earth, then they say Allah. They do not give to their idols. But that's the mushrik Allah talking about, not the.
It's both of them, but there are verses also talking about the kuffar, right? They're also talking about the kuffar in
But
some of those. I should actually try to maybe what I'll do is I'll try to put them all into one stream and I can put them there, right?
yeah, Allah
Yeah.
mentioned many times about the atheists, the kufar. The main kufar are in the Quran. Those two people are kufar, kafir. One is atheist, another one who do evil thing. Even if a Muslim does evil thing, he is a kafir because he does not have faith in Allah. That's why he does evil thing.
Yeah,
So
I would agree with that. But the idea is this: look, when you look at the word kufr, you want to actually analyze it because the only way most people are taking kafir to mean atheist is really these translations, right? Kufr in the Quran is the opposite of kufr. Is always shukr in the Quran. Imma kafir, imma shukura, right? Inna hadaynahu sabila, imma shakir, imma kafura, right? Most of the time, that's what it is. What's his name? Izitsu has a brilliant book which I've always recommended people to read, the ethical religious concepts in the Quran, right? And he talks a lot about that, and he shows very clearly that you can't have that. I mean, even the word kafir, it's not the same as like when you talk about atheist, non-Muslim, unbeliever. All of these are two-part words, right? There's a negative with a positive, right? Unbeliever, right? Non-believer, atheist, not a theist, not a believer, not a this. Kafir is not like that. The word kafir has its own meaning. It's not a negative of something else. Kafir, it doesn't mean not something, right?
kafir means one who hide the truth.
That's one aspect that people will say that it's hide the truth. It doesn't hide the truth really, right? It's more like to deny a favor is more closer to it, okay? Because that's the sort of the pinnacle of being ungrateful, of the opposite of shukr, right? Is kufur, and the pinnacle of that is that somebody does a favor for you and you just don't recognize it. It's as if they never did it, right? You cover it up. No, you never helped me out. You never did for me,
I think yes, brother. I can explain to you why Allah used word kafir. Kafir simply means to hide the truth. Allah used this
Okay.
word.
Question.
Yeah.
Hold on. Question. What truth did Shaitan hide? Okay, Shaitan is a kafir, right? He
Yes,
believed in God.
because yeah, kafir. Another thing, one who do the evil thing, disobey God, those are also kafir. Even if a Muslim who believes in Allah, but he is doing the evil thing, he also a kafir.
Okay,
Because,
so
because yeah,
how do you know you have these two, right?
yeah, because
Definitions.
he when he does a Muslim does evil thing, he deny what Allah said not to do evil thing. He deny that and he do evil thing. That's why Allah called those things evil doer also a kafir.
Okay, so let me read a verse to you about this then, right? Like I mentioned just a minute ago. Here, this is Surah Luqman, right? It says, وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ كُفْرُهُ إِلَيْنَا مَرْجِعُهُمْ فَنُنْبِئُهُم بما عملوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ نُمَتِّعُهُمْ قَلِيلًا ثُمَّ نَضْطُرُّهُمْ إِلَى عَذَابٍ غَلِيظٍ. Okay? This is talking about who? مَنْ كَفَرَ. Then it says, وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ. So it is not talking about the mushrik, it's talking about somebody who's in kufr. Okay? Somebody who's in kufr. مَنْ كَفَرَ فَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ كُفْرُهُ. Then it says, the verse after the next, وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ قُلِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ بَلْ أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Okay? It's talking about kufr and not
Yeah,
shirk.
brother, I do not understand Arabic. Okay.
Sorry. So write them down maybe or visit the stream afterwards later. This is in Surah Al-Luqman, okay?
Okay.
Verse 23 onwards.
Okay.
Okay, and it's not that one either. There's numerous which are like that. Okay.
Okay, brother, I will explain to you about the kafir is a very special word. This has never been existed. The way Allah used kafir, I think it's used from some Arabic word is, that you hide the water in the jar, a cloth, piece of cloth to hide the water, so something is.
So there's also, for example, like that sort of like half joke by Ali ibn Abi Talib. He went out into the field one day and he started to plow the earth, and he said, "أصبحت كافرا مصدق اليهود والنصارى." I've become a kafir, believing the Yahud and Nasara, right? I've become a kafir here. It means I've become a farmer. So yes, one of the meanings from which they take the word kafir from is the idea of a farmer, right? And even at the end, I think Surah Al-Fath, when it talks about يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار, one of those, okay, like the word kufar in the Quran sometimes means farmer, right? Because a farmer, they say, covers
Yeah,
the ground,
yeah,
right? Covers the seed, right? Covers the seed
yeah.
with it, right?
Yeah. Another word I find, the jar in the old time, the people, a jar, you use the jar to put the
Yeah.
water inside, and they cover up with a cloth, they hide the water. So dirt would not fall on the water, so they cover up. And that cloth also called something like with kafir, something kafara, something
Let me ask,
Arabic word.
let me ask you this: is kafir ever used before the Quran religiously?
No, I don't believe
Yeah.
this is a special for Islam. It
Okay.
doesn't use in my.
It's
Yeah,
never used in that way. Even the word
yeah,
mu'min
yeah.
is a Quranic invention, and
Yes, yes, yes.
there's a lot of things in the Quran which basically vocabulary and usage which the Quran sort of invented. They weren't
Yes,
used that way before,
yes, I
right?
agree with that. I
Yeah.
agree with that. And this word we also Allah use this word, but to something other than, some other to explain. Let me explain about the way I understand about the kafir. You see, Allah put a knowledge of whom on in Adam, to knowledge of God existence
Mm.
within Adam, and we inherent to those knowledge. Every child today born, they have a knowledge of God existence. Okay, God program, put a software. Let's say as a software put inside the human being. So
Yeah.
every human being has this knowledge. Those atheists who say God doesn't exist, they know that God exists,
Yeah.
but they hide it.
What is called
They,
the fitra, right? Fitra.
yes,
But
fitra,
fitra,
yes,
yeah, but the
yes.
fitra is not about God existing or not existing. It isn't, right?
No. There
Fitra.
is ayat. There is ayat. The Prophet Abraham, Allah said he was a natural man. He
Say again,
has
sorry.
the Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
Allah said he has a innate of God existence knowledge. He has a. I can give you ayat. You can also Allah told Prophet Muhammad to follow your inner religion. It's Allah directly said He installed a religion within all human being, and that religion contain knowledge of existence of God, and knowledge of knowing right from wrong. Human
Yeah.
being knows right from wrong within their brain. You don't have to learn from right and wrong from our parents or society.
Mm-hmm.
We already knows to hurting someone is a wrong, stealing is a wrong. Allah gives this knowledge, or
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
Allah gives
But
the two type of knowledge. One is God existence. Another is to know knowledge of right and wrong.
yeah, no, I see. When you talk about this in that kind of way, I mean, God is a very conscious idea, right? The existence that God exists or doesn't exist. That's a conscious idea that people wrestle with. Okay, no child is born actually just, oh, I believe in God. If you just leave them in the thing and just no, it doesn't happen that way. Okay, it just doesn't happen that way. The fitrah isn't about that. Yes, I know the verse you're talking about. أقيم وجهك للدين حنيفا.
No, no. There is a ayah. Allah said, "I take from Adam line, his descendant. I am not your Lord." Those babies said, "Yes, you are our Lord." You remember this ayah?
Yes, I know. But let me ask you this: do you remember this incident?
Was
Do
it?
you remember it? Do you remember this happening?
Ask me clearly so I can understand.
Sorry, I said, do you remember this happening? Okay.
What happening?
Do you remember God taking us out from the loins of Adam and
No.
saying,
I think you Muslim misunderstand that verse.
No, I don't
Let me explain to you. Muslim different explanation of when we were at somewhere, we existed. Allah take us out from. No, this is a wrong understanding. What Allah saying is, after Adam, his children, from them, Allah talked to them. Allah talked to them and say, "I am not your Lord." So those babies said, "Yes, you are our Lord." That means Allah only testing the program He put in their brain. Allah talked to them to test His. They have knowledge of my existence or not. So this is what Allah talking about. Allah. The way our mullahs and the scholars explain a totally wrong explanation. That's the only thing Allah telling us that Allah tested the program He put in the human being. So Allah tested Adam's children. I am not your Lord, and they testify, "Yes, you are our Lord." So this is how.
I mean, look, this is what I'm saying. Okay, if you were there, if these spirits were there, and God spoke,
we were not there, brother. We were not there. Well, that's a wrong understanding.
You're saying it's God testing the programming that's inside, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you test that programming with a child and ask them, "Is God not your Lord?" Are they going to say yes? Will every child just naturally say yes? No, it's just not.
No. Brother, we have a knowledge. I give you another thing. Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Look, this will make you understand. This will make you understand.
One second. I know what you mean. You mean that a person has an innate belief in God, right?
Yes.
That it's not conscious, right?
Yes, that's the software we have. The software we have.
That's fine. Well, and if that's going to be the differentiator between a kafir or not kafir, or atheist and not atheist, well, I would say there are many atheists out there, right? They will consciously say, "I don't believe in God," and what they mean by that is this God of religion, right? This God of religion.
Regardless of what God disbelieve. Okay.
Just hold on a second. So they will say, for example, I don't believe in God, right? But they will say, for example, I believe in the universe. Some would say that. I believe in energy in the universe. Right?
That's when God, if they believe some creator there is also some creator, power, energy, whatever if they say created, then that means they're God.
Yeah, but the point is they're saying I don't believe in God, right? I believe in just a higher power. Okay, that's one.
Who created higher power? Who created?
Yeah, I understand. Just hold on, okay? And then you have some people who say, look, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in a higher power either. Okay, like consciously they will not, right? But you're saying it's a subconscious thing which will always be there, and that's the thing about you're saying it's going to be something which will always be a fitrah of Allah, of nature, which is going to be there. Okay, so if that's always going to be there, then you can say every atheist who outwardly claims to be not a believer in God is really a believer in God. All right. Now, if that inner conscious, sort of unconscious understanding that God exists, right? You can't expect somebody to analyze their conscious thoughts against their sort of inner unconscious thoughts, and then be held accountable to sort of like this deep inside unconscious belief in God. Okay, it's two different levels. Okay, it's two different levels. right? When you talk about somebody who's going to become who is atheist or somebody who's a believer, you're talking about somebody who's consciously, outwardly, this is what they're expressing. Okay, they're either saying I believe in God or I don't believe in God. They're mentioning something outward, right? The thing which inside, conscious, unconscious, you have no control over that. Something which deep down it's unconscious, you have no control over that, right? It's not your volition. Okay, iman and kufur, these are things which are voluntary. Okay, they're not something which you do by mistake, right? They're not something which you do by mistake. Okay, belief and disbelieving. Okay, when you believe or disbelieve, actually it's in the heart. I'm not talking about now about what you say. Okay, that's not something that you have control over. You can't control and decide if you believe something or you don't believe in something, right? You can't. That's just going to be nifaq in the end. If you just say, okay, inside I don't believe in God, right? But in inside, they're telling me I do. But as far as I can tell, inside I don't believe in God. But I'm going to say I believe in God. That's just now nifaq, right? That's just nifaq. In the end, belief, like when we talk about belief in English, the word belief, okay, that is something which is involuntary. You can't make yourself believe something. You can't make yourself stop believing in something. Okay? Iman isn't like that. Kufr isn't like that. Okay, these are voluntary, these are things you do, right? Which is why I mean, I liked what you said before that kufr can be a type of action. It mostly is. من كفر فعليه كفره ومن عمل صالحا فلأنفسهم يمهدون. Whoever does kufr, then upon him is his kufr. And converse with that, what's the opposite of that? وَمَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا. Whoever does good, then it's for their own selves, right? So I mean, it's a long discussion, the whole thing with kufr. But I think I really do. I mean, it used to be translated as infidel, which was a bit better, sort of like more like infidelity, somebody who's not faithful, right? That's how it used to be translated in sort of like Old English, right? And then when the modern world started to make it about belief and not belief, because a lot of people think that it's just about belief. I mean, believing in God or not believing in God, it doesn't God doesn't need our belief or disbelief. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's the faithfulness to faithfulness to goodness that's important, right? That's
No. The requirement is a two thing. Allah tell in the Quran many places there are two requirements to go to heaven. One is believe in God. Another be a good person. These are requirements.
No. See, I've made a number of videos and posts about that. Every verse which says enter Jannah, it says enter Jannah by what you used to do. Every verse which says enter hell, it says enter hell because of what you used to do. Okay. Now the verses which I know, of course, people will say, but God says, "Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat lahum jannat." Okay, this is the statement. Look at the structure of the statement. It's saying what they will have. Those who have faith, and most of the time, "Inna alladhina amanu." Okay, well, who's it talking about? It just means the Muslims. It means the Muslims. Just like "Inna alladhina amanu wa alladhina hadu wa nasara." It's talking about this group. Okay, the followers of Muhammad. Okay, the followers of Muhammad. Okay, the Quran never says Muslims. It never says Muslims. Okay, it says Inna alladhina amanu. And yes, Inna alladhina amanu. Of course, they're going to have Jannah. Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Of course, they will have Jannah. Right? But the common denominator of anybody who goes to Jannah is their action, and that's the purpose of why we're in this world. Okay, purpose. لِيَبْلُوكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Who is the best in action, right? And our verses just say that as long as you stay away from all the big sins, نُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ. Okay, we will forgive the mind and you will enter Jannah, right? There's Surah Al-Najm, right? Surah Al-Najm. وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسَاءُوا بِمَا عَمِلُوا وَيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا بِالْحُسْنَى. Right? And هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. Okay, it's all over the Quran. The problem is, of course, we have that hadith which is diametrically opposed to those verses, which says لن يدخل الجنة أحدكم عمله. Right? That your actions will never cause you to enter Jannah. And they said, even you are messenger of Allah, and he said, even me until God shows me His mercy. This hadith strips away the logical, obvious reasons for why people should enter Jannah, which is for their good deeds, and it says it's by God's mercy, and it's just a window, it's a peg for which different sects will say what it means to get God's mercy, right? So the Sunnis will say, okay, you want God's mercy? It's in our sect. We are the ones who get the saved sect, okay? We are the ones who get God's mercy. By saying you enter Jannah through quote unquote God's mercy, it just leaves it sort of up in the air. Everybody claim it now. Everybody can claim we are the ones who have God's mercy. We are the ones. No, the Quran is very clear. ادخلوا الجنة بما كنتم تعملون. تلكم الجنة التي أورثتموها بما كنتم تعملون. Okay? إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. It's all عمل. There is no verse which says enter Jannah, or the reward of Jannah is for what you used to believe and do. No, it's always ادخلوا الجنة بما. The cause for entering to Jannah is what you used to do. Always.
Yes. Allah doesn't say by mercy you will enter Jannah. It doesn't say anything like that. I can say Allah mercy I will go to Jannah, but Allah doesn't say that by my mercy you go into Jannah. Allah said clearly you do good thing, you go to Jannah.
Another example, okay, in the Quran we have, I've put this before in a video, the list of those whom God says He loves and those whom He says He doesn't love. Okay? Nowhere in the Quran does Allah say He loves the believers. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That phrase does not exist in the Quran. It's absent.
No, okay? Those who do good. Allah loves those who do good.
Exactly. So if you are the person who do good, right, it means Allah loves you.
Yes.
You're going to go to hell, but you're not a believer. You're not a mu'min.
Oh, no. This is two conditions. You must believe in God. Not. You don't have to be a Muslim, okay? But Muslim like that. You can be a Christian, Jew, Hindu, whatever you can be. You must, two things is a requirement. One, to believe in God. Another thing, you must do good thing.
I really don't see that in the Quran. I don't see that as a requirement. Where does it say to enter Jannah, the requirement? I mean, how are you going to assess?
Many times in the Quran, many times require Allah to
no, it says many times it will say those who have faith and do good deeds will be in Jannah. That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah, the faith and the
that's not a requirement. That's not a requirement.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The two requirement.
No, that's not a requirement.
Okay, what is requirement?
That is saying what will happen. That is saying what will happen. Okay, it's not given.
No, what is the requirement you think?
The requirement is to do good deeds. It's to come to Allah with a sound heart. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ.
That's one. That's one.
It's that your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds. Okay, that's what we have in the Quran. Okay, scales, judgment, right?
Allah said, "Many those who believe and do good, those will go to heaven."
Yes, that's a statement. That's a statement of fact. Okay, but when it's a statement of fact.
Are you saying atheists also go to Jannah?
Yes.
Those Allah, many times Allah said, those who deny our sign, they all go to hellfire.
But again, you're talking about now, you're equating that with atheists. Okay, I'm not equating that with atheists.
No, but that's what.
Atheists. Okay, إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. And by the way, that's always the opposite for that. Always, why isn't it ever إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات, okay, for Jannah, and why isn't the opposite إن الذين كفروا وعملوا السيئات? Why doesn't it ever say that?
Could you tell me that in English so I don't understand Arabic?
Sorry. So it says those who do good deeds and those who have faith and do good deeds, right?
Yes.
Them is Jannah, right? The opposite of that is never those who kafaru and do bad deeds, right? So we have amilu salihat, do good deeds, but the opposite of that in the verses which oppose that, always you have these two opposing. It almost seems like a double negative, Those who have kafaru wa kazzabu bi ayatina. Okay, why are both mentioned? Why kafaru wa kazzabu bi ayatina? Because you were just saying just now that atheists are those who reject the ayat. Okay, well, kafaru are those who also do that. So why is it that both are mentioned?
Which one? Could you tell me in English?
So you know the many verses that you're talking about, right? Where God
Yeah.
says, "Truly, those who believe, let's just say for now, and do good deeds, for them is Jannah." Yes.
Yes.
And then usually afterwards you have another verse which will say, "And those who have kafaru, right? Those who
English,
have
English, English, English.
those who have disbelieved and rejected our signs, rejected our signs, right? Those
Uh-huh.
who have disbelieved and rejected our signs." I'm saying, why isn't it saying those who have disbelieved and do bad deeds? Why isn't
Yes,
it like that?
those
Because it
who do
seems,
bad, they also go to hellfire.
no, I mean, no, I'm not, you understand what I'm saying. So, like if I said, good people go to Jannah, bad people go to hell, right? You can understand that because you're talking about opposites, yes? Good and bad are opposites, right? So when you have a statement which says, those who believe and do good deeds go to Jannah, what should be the opposite? The opposite should be to
Those who
say,
do not believe and do evil.
and do evil deeds, exactly. So in Arabic, that would be الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَعَمِلُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ, right? But the Quran never says that with as
No, no,
opposite.
no.
When
Many
it,
times Allah said those who reject faith and do evil things, they all go to hellfire.
no, so there
He,
isn't.
even if is good atheist, he done good thing or he deny God existence, he go to hellfire.
Do
Or
you think that's
a believer who believe in God and do bad thing, he also go to hellfire.
Yeah, but no, that's not. I was just saying that the verses which are like that, they don't seem to match up with each other. But never mind, it doesn't matter about that. Let's skip that because I don't think I'm able to convey it well without being in person, to be honest. But look, we have to understand what the purpose of this world is. God is not putting us in this world to make it so that we must believe in Him. Why does God need us to believe in Him?
No, no, belief in him is because to be doing good thing. That's
Okay,
what.
so if you if
Look,
so,
look, I will tell you why Allah make a requirement to believe in Him. You
Mhm.
see, if God say, oh, okay, you don't have to believe me, you know. So, where is guidance coming from to believe in Him? Which guidance do you going to follow? Any guidance if send you a messenger or message to you, why should you believe those come from God when you don't believe in God? So why you should follow those messages he sent to you? You will do whatever you like in this world, and we know human being only like to do, selfishness, human to fulfill their own desire. That's how we are, that kind of creature we are. If we benefit something, somebody from looting somebody, stealing somebody, and we benefit, we will follow that our desire. So that's why Allah put a requirement to believe in me, follow my message, guidance, and do good thing. So that's how I will reward you. So requirement with believing in God is not for him, it is for us. So we can fear and do the right thing.
yeah, okay, so that's the goal. The goal is to be fair and do the right thing, right? That's
Yeah,
why we have to believe in God.
yeah.
So how does it make sense then that if somebody doesn't believe in God but is still fair and does the right thing, that they will go to hell forever?
No, but the majority, if we all became, let's say God allow atheists in the paradise. So
Yeah.
why everybody would be believing in God and doing the good thing in the name of God? Why would they be doing that? When God allow atheists to be in paradise, he can do whatever he want to. So
No, but
we,
we're not saying he can do whatever he wants to. We're saying that the entry to Jannah, okay, is to have your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds, right? So that's across the board, whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, right? Iman, faith in God, is exactly very similar to what you're saying. When you have faith in
no,
somebody, you're having trust in their guidance, right?
look,
So when you have faith in God, that He will guide you, right? So you accept His guidance, to bring you closer towards towards good deeds, right? The whole purpose of why did God send the messengers and the books is so that mankind can establish justice. And that's what the Quran says. Okay, لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That's why the whole purpose, the whole point of God sending messengers and books wasn't so they could believe in God. It was so that they could establish, mankind would establish justice. Okay, that's the goal. Okay, that's the reason for messengers and prophets being sent in the first place. Okay, so that mankind could establish justice. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Right, so that's always been the goal. And if you look, especially, I mean, look in the first verses of that were revealed of the Quran. So if you look in the earliest surahs that were revealed, the earliest surahs, okay, the earliest surahs, when you read them, I mean, because this is sort of like the message as it should be when the people without the back and forth of other people denying. Okay, so what is being said in those early surahs, okay, is a very universal message of having taqwa and doing good deeds, right? Right.
Yes.
So as Surah Al-Zalzala, من يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يرى من يعمل مثقال ذرة شر. Whoever does an atom's weight of good shall see it, and whoever does a atom's weight of evil shall see it. Right. Whoever does من يعمل. Right? And all of these, and talk, إن الأبرار لفي عليين وإن الفجار لفي سجين. Okay? There's not much talk about الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات yet. Okay? Because الذين آمنوا had not been established as sort of like a group. Okay? They're not like النصارى, اليهود, and then you have الذين آمنوا, like this community around the prophets. Okay? Before that, it's just the Quran is talking about al-fujjar, al-abrar, in al-muttaqeen, al-mujrimeen. Okay, these are the things. If you want the real entry ticket into Jannah, it's taqwa. Okay, it's taqwa. تلكم الجنة نورث من عبادي من كان تقيا. Whoever has taqwa, right? That's what it comes. And taqwa is a very universal quality. It's a universal quality. You don't have to believe in God to be a person of taqwa. Okay, you don't have to believe in God.
So are you saying we don't have to follow Quran because if God accepts the atheists, then why should we follow all the Quran? Believe and do things what the Quran order to do things. Why should we do those things?
Well, even when people say why should we, when people say follow the Quran, what does that even mean? I mean, what we're not following the Quran doesn't mean having a slogan of following it. It means following the guidance inside it, right? The guidance inside it.
No, you say you don't need it. According to you, atheists don't need it, right? So why should we follow? If we believe that, if God telling us you don't need Quran, you can be atheist and be a good person, and you go to heaven. Why should we do namaz and zakat, charities, all those things? Why should we do that?
Well, you're mixing a lot of things in there, but if you're talking about why the Quran contains guidance, it contains wisdom, okay? It contains the hudud, right? It contains a lot of things which will help you towards guidance, okay?
But
it's a kitab of huda. Okay, hold on. It's a kitab of huda, right? But that doesn't mean that outside of the Quran there is no huda. Outside of the Quran there is no guidance. It doesn't mean that the human being, even by himself, doesn't have enough to guide him.
Outside
by themselves, like you mentioned, the fitrah, right?
Yes.
The human being by himself has enough, right?
Yes.
فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. That the human being by themselves, they have that, right? Atheist has that. Everybody has that, right? In terms of like you're saying, what's in why do we need to follow? Well, look, I mean, for example, in the Quran it says, كُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Okay, there are many atheists. They know that, right?
Yes.
They know that, right? They know that they should be among the honest and should be truthful. Okay.
But
just a second. They know that. Everybody knows that. Okay. Everybody knows that they should be honest, right? And there are some people that atheists or non-atheists, they will take that seriously with or without religious scripture, And these are the best of people. Okay. They don't even need God telling them to be honest to firmly always be honest. Okay, and the people who need the Quran to tell them that and to follow that are less than them. They are less than them. Okay, because they wouldn't, it's like, oh, I will not be honest unless God tells me to be honest. That's not as good. That's just not as good, right? The person who will be honest without that, that's even better. When Allah says, don't لا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله, don't murder people, right? There are lots of people, they know they're not to murder people, okay? Most of the big things are very well known, right, to everybody worldwide, right? The main things, which is why they're going to be the sort of the defining block, right? Defining thing which decides. Allah says that that if you stay away from the big sins, نكفر عنكم سيئاتكم, right? We will forgive you all the minor stuff. Okay, إن ربك واسع المغفرة, right? إلا اللمم إن ربك واسع المغفرة, right? He knows you better as when you were in the womb, etc. So it's the idea that without the Quran, that there's outside the Quran there is guidance. I mean,
look, Allah already gave us to know right from wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
It is human who have to follow those instincts. Okay, we know lying is wrong, but it's up to us to choose to lie or not lie. But we have knowledge of lying is wrong. Hurting somebody is wrong. We have knowledge, but it's still our choice to hurt somebody, not to hurt somebody. Okay, but where does what you're talking about? Atheists also go to heaven. Is in the Quran, or you just your own understanding?
What I'm saying is there are no atheists in the Quran, right?
No. Atheists are the Allah gave the cattle, like a cattle. Those are the atheists. Those are atheists. They are not a believer.
No, they're not the atheists. I mean, for example, I would say a lot of the religiously dogmatic people, like almost like what we just mentioned now about the subset of this Jewish people, the kunu qiradatan khasi'in. They believe in God, right? But God says to them, be like apes, right?
Yeah, but those are only those those who were disobeying God and also corrupting the other tribes of Jew.
Yeah, so you can be a believer in God and still be, like cattle, not see, not hear, not think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So not.
So those are look. Not all Jew. Allah does not talking about the all Jew about that. There was Allah divided. There were 12 tribes. Allah divided them. Among them, one tribe they were became a disobedience to Allah. Okay, so Allah turned them pig and monkeys. So this is the only one tribe. Like people, even the Jew book that said missing tribes. So they are still looking for missing tribes. So Allah.
I mean, in my presentation, that's exactly what I was not saying, right? I don't believe they weren't transformed into apes, right? They weren't actually changed into apes. Okay.
Yes, ape and pigs. Yes.
Yeah, they weren't. I'm saying
they were whole tribes, one tribes.
Yeah. No. Nobody was changed into apes and pigs, right?
No. Allah said in Quran they turned into ape and pigs.
Yeah, that's again. This is like what we were mentioning in the stream. That no, what's being said, "Kunu qiradatan khasi'in," does not mean that they are transformed. Otherwise, how would God be punishing them afterwards? Right? Allah says in the next verse that that there would be sent against them people who would always persecute them. Are people persecuting apes and pigs?
No. They are other Jew. These are not the whole Jew. This is the one tribes of the Jew. 12 tribes Allah divided into 12 tribes. The only one tribe Allah turned them into pig and monkeys.
Yeah, but that same the verse which says that, it says straight away afterwards that God would be sending people to punish them. So if these people were turned into apes and pigs, which actually just says apes, not pigs, You're changed into apes, right? Then is God sending people to punish apes?
No,
No,
I need to read
not.
it. I don't remember all that.
Yeah, this stream was about that. This stream, if you listen to it maybe later from the beginning, it was about that. It's basically that it's not saying these people were turned into apes and pigs. It's saying that these people were acting like apes and pigs, not apes and pigs, just apes. They were just acting. They were constantly just imitating the same mistakes again and again and again, just imitate. So in the end, after they'd been punished, they'd been warned, had other tribes had a better example in them. They just kept on doing it. So God said, "Okay, fine. You want to be like that? Be apes. Continue to be like that. Just like you say to somebody now who is acting like a donkey. Like you say, like now, maybe like in our cultures, a lot of time people say that, right? You donkey, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
somebody says, if somebody you're trying to instruct somebody, right, and they're not listening, and they keep on just being stupid and ignoring me stupid, you keep on instructing again and again, and then you say, okay, fine, you want to keep being like that? Be a donkey. Be a donkey. It's like that. It doesn't mean you changed into donkey. That's what I think about that. But look, to go back to the main idea, right? Um, it's very simple. If you're going to ask somebody, okay, in the Quran, what causes people to enter Jannah? What causes people to enter Jannah? Okay,
Yeah.
the verses are all clear, right? It says, "Udkhulul Jannah bima kuntum." Enter Jannah because of what you used to do. The whole Quran, both heaven and hell, it says, "Enter because of what you used to do." Actions. Ta'amalun. There is no verse which is entry going into Jannah is because of Iman and what you do. No, it's
Yeah.
always
But,
because of
there are many brothers you miss a big part. There
that.
are,
that
I
that's
can
fine.
give you
Let's
about
say,
20, 20,
okay,
30 verses. I keep
okay.
telling Allah.
So imagine you have like a somebody at the door, right, in a hotel, and the person he lets in certain people, okay, and you look and you see that he lets people in who have a, I don't know, yellow jacket, red trousers, and everybody who has yellow jacket and red trousers, he lets them in, and then everybody who has red trousers, he lets them in, and but then somebody who has black trousers and yellow jacket, you can't go in. Somebody who has, I don't know, black jacket, no, I don't know, red, green trousers, green jacket, doesn't let in. What is the common factor? Who is the person letting in? The person is letting in the person with red trousers. Anybody who has red trousers goes in. You don't have red trousers, you don't go in. That is basically the Quran is saying. It's saying if you want to take what you said, fine. You say, okay, Quran says people who have faith and do good deeds, they enter Jannah. And it also says those who do good deeds enter Jannah. So what is the deciding factor? What is causing people to enter Jannah? It's the good deeds because
Yes,
it's present in both. It's present in both. Okay.
yes, good
Faith,
deed is very important to be in Jannah.
the faith doesn't matter. This is what we're talking about. Verses we say that, right? You're asking me, is this something in the Quran? I'm saying yes, it's in the Quran where God talks all the time about entry. And if you look at for the verses which say entry, going inside Jannah, what causes somebody to enter? What opens the doors of Jannah? It's what you used to do. Okay, that's how it's all over the Quran. And same thing with hell. Same thing with hell. Okay, اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تعملون. Okay, enter it because of what you used to do. Right. There is a verse which says بما كنتم تكفرون. Okay, which shows again that kufur is not that. And going back to what I said about those whom God loves and doesn't love, right? So I have a video on this channel about that, right? All the verses where God says whom He loves, right? And all the verses where God says whom He doesn't love, He loves not. Okay,
Yes.
and sometimes what you will see is that they mirror. So, for example, God says He loves the just 3 times, and He doesn't love the unjust 3 times. Okay, and He says He loves the muttaqeen 3 times, and doesn't love the mu'tadeen, the transgressors 3 times, showing again that these are opposites. Okay, and so you have it's showing in that kind of way. Now, 2 places the Quran says God does not love the kafirin. God does not love the kafirin. Okay, but you don't find two places where God says that He loves al-mu'minin. Okay, that doesn't exist. What we have though in lieu of that is two verses where God says He will reward the shakirin, because kufur and shukr are opposites, right? So we have no verse where God says He loves the mu'minin. So if somebody, right, is one of the mu'minin, right? Sorry, is one of the any of the from the list of the qualities which God says He loves. Okay, and he stays away from all the other ones. Okay, then he's going to be somebody whom God loves, right? And therefore, he will enter Jannah. Of course, he will enter Jannah. Anyway, look, I don't want to drag this on too long. Inshallah, maybe one day I will try to make a video specifically about kufur. But I do have a couple of live streams here where we talked about deeds, not actions. I think it's called, the live stream is called that, deeds, not actions, where I just show these verses, where God talks about the reasons for entering into Jannah.
Okay, brother.
Okay, it was lovely talking to you anyway, my friend. What's your name, brother, again?
My name is Sayyid.
Sayyid.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for coming on. And inshallah, come on again, please.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Brilliant. Okay, I've got somebody else on. I'll bring them on for a little bit.
All right, sir.
Thank you. Oops. So I've got Aslam. Assalamu alaikum, Aslam. Oops, did I add you or not add you? There we go. How are you?
Hello.
Aslam?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well. Is my voice audible?
Yeah, it's audible.
Okay, wonderful. First and foremost, I would like to just share your content about that suicide was very helpful. Recently, because in today's day and age, this is it's a major issue that's going on. So one person, it's a youth volunteer. He's working about this, and he takes some workshops. So he found it very useful.
Yeah. It is the best thing for, I think, for people who are suicidal is to actually become, do work for other people, change them out, and that's like I said, that's the way to read that verse. لا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. God can be merciful through you. Right?
Correct.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that.
Correct. Inshallah, may Almighty accept your efforts and give you sadqa jariya. Inshallah. So, I just wanted to share, I am also a layman, I'm also a believer. And also I am happy that in this stream we have people who are believers, who may be not a believer, but we are open, we are always welcoming others as well. That's really good. So I'm just a layman as a believer, but there are certain observations of mine, I feel. Let's say in Islamic faith, we say about shirk and this thing. But many a times people, when they do the translation, it means associate. They use the term idolater. But I feel that doesn't do the justice. Because I live in a country, it's billions of people from Hindu religion. Apparently you may feel, they are idolaters and this thing. But many of them are, for them, it's just a form of worship. It not necessarily means that they will associate, this is an idol, I'm associating divinity and this thing. It's a form of worship for them. That is the reason why, if we see the Quran, ritual. Yeah. So that is the reason why Quran in the chapter 22, Surah Hajj 17 has categorically mentioned Muslims, Christians, and people who associate. And in fact, people in ancient times, now in Iran, Muslims are there. But prior to Iran, there was a religion of Zoroastrian magicians, and they call it. So Quran mentions them also. So God will judge between them. So it gives us the clarity that in regards to that. Why? Because the issue is with what exactly is the condition of their soul. And then it was mentioned to Prophet Muhammad that we have given you ilmul kalil, little knowledge about them. So for us to inform the salvation of people of other faith, I think Muslims are not in a condition to just give their verdict about salvation. Oh, this is disbelievers and these things, because in Surah Hajj, God categorically mentioned in Surah Hajj 17 verse that I am witness to all this and I will be the judge. And God mentioned that people of this thing.
Yeah, we've got to there's this I was having this discussion on Reddit with somebody who was a pagan. It started off a bit rough because of course they're attacked a lot of the time. There's because there's a resurgence of paganism, so they're attacked a lot by monotheists. But we had a very nice discussion, and I told it, and he gave me this. He put me. He shared with me a YouTube channel, which is a pagan YouTube channel, which talks a lot about paganism, right? And so I listened to that because I've wanted to actually have a pagan come on, do like a live stream with a pagan, just to discuss it, because again the issue is that people conflate the paganism and idolatry with shirk and mushrik. Right, just to show that they're not the same. They're not the same. And I've mentioned it before. Shirk is all about ibadah, and the problem is a lot of people don't understand ibadah. They think it means like rituals, like salah is ibadah. Salah is not ibadah, right? Salah is what just something we do. It's a ritual. Again, it's just another ritual. Allah says, "Aqim as-salat wa aqim as-salat li dhikri." Being ibadah to me and establish salah for my dhikr. So ibadah is not the same as the dhikr, right? It's not the same as salah. Okay?
Correct.
Ibadah is literally comes from the word itself, abd, to be in servitude, right? To be a slave in servitude to somebody, right? And so shirk is just all about that.
Correct.
It's to share out your ibadah to others with God. And in the Quran, I mentioned this before again, there's four terms. There's shirk, and then there's ibadah min dunillah, and then there's dua min dunillah, and then there's dua ma'allah. So there's four different, and we always lump them all together as shirk. We put them all together as shirk.
Correct.
They're not all shirk.
Correct.
Okay? Shirk is really the Quranic phrase for ibadah ma'allah, right? يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا.
Correct.
So anyway, yes.
Correct. No,
so
very nice, very important point you have shared. Yeah.
Go ahead,
please proceed. Yeah.
No, that's it. There was
So actually, yes, when you have this approach, so what I like when I interact and this thing, so I say that what happens is that Quran helps you to understand. I'm not saying it is a supremacy or saying it will help an individual. Again, I told that it's not about a system, it's about an individual. It will help as an individual to understand the divine reality. So it will help you. Other may help, but this is the thing. And that's the reason why Quran says that the God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is closer than jugular veins. So, I mean, if God is so closer that I may not even have to go to Makkah, Medina, I mean, he's so closer to me. I mean, I'm just saying it like just a metaphorically that God is so closer. One can be, and we are just, and when we are born, it's like a customized universe given to us. Like monsoon falls, everything is a customized. So Quran helps you to understand the divine reality. This is what this is what I put across to people, so that there is a element of, like Dr. Hassan Farhan al-Maliki has mentioned, that we are all students of basically of Quran or Islam or this thing. We are not Sheikhul and this thing, and he doesn't prefer those titles. In fact, we are students at the end of it. Student,
I mean, like going back a little bit to what Sayyid said just a minute ago, why do we need the Quran? You don't even need all of the Quran. I mean, you can advise somebody to just, hey, if there's a surah which you like, take that as being a surah and follow the guidance, in it. One surah is enough. One surah is enough, and the guidance in it is enough. To guide you. I mean, take Surah Al-Layl, take Surah, a single short surah is enough for. I mean, we even have this, right? Some of the scholars, Imam Shafi'i, said, regarding Surah Al-Asr, right, that if God had only revealed that one surah, it would have been enough. Okay. So the Quran in many ways is don't forget, it's not, God wasn't following a word count. Like some people say, why are certain things in the Quran what's the point of having this or that? Well, there's no word count.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to. Some things could not be there, but I would prefer if there were even more things there which were not as relevant to us. But the problem is the dogmatism which people fall into
Yeah.
regarding those things. But
Correct.
it's
And then
not all.
actually, yeah, this is again one more. Sorry to interrupt you. There is one more observation. And again, so I don't want to say as a something who I'm a scholar or something. Just like a observation, I feel that most of the time and energy has been wasted. I mean, it's actually wasted on creed or akida instead of talking about guidance. Now, for example, I've interacted with when we go to mosque, like Sunnis or Shias, or Hindu circles and all. Everybody knows that we have that ghibat, backbiting, and then Quran also mentions that people spreading false news and then riots happening. So this is all hidayat aspect. People will not talk about this thing.
Yeah,
Rather they will talk about creedal issues and this thing.
The dogmatism.
Yes, and this is batin. That is your prayer.
A lot of the reasons for that is people find it boring. I think people are like, talking about honesty. Everybody knows about honesty. They want to talk about something which is like more subtle, and that's a trap as well. That's a trap. It's a trap when it comes to that.
Because if there are 7 billion people in this planet, and let's say now we are educated, we are in from university, etc. But there is a person who is just a farmer, but God is of his also. He also wants guidance. So God will not share guidance in a very mumbo jumbo things. He would want a very simpler things, like fulfilling the promises. In the Surah Mu'minin, it mentions fulfilling the promises. And if you get the love of the wealth, then despite that they share the wealth within their family members, they make sure that when the wealth is distributed, there is a adl, justice. They will not insult. So this aspect, it's universal. A farmer will also be able to understand. But this creedal problem will be very this thing. Our 1,000 years back, the Salaf and Alubait, and these all they used to believe like this, and so it becomes very challenging for others to understand.
Even now in the modern age, because of the spectacular successes of science, and so it becomes even more understandable for somebody to say they don't believe in God, right? So it's the same sort of issue. We have to understand that things. It's never been able now people can come through from evolution with Big Bang theory, evolution, these kind of things. People can have a total explanation of existence without God, and just trust in the science with it, and that's it, right? So it becomes to say that it's not difficult for people now to just say no, it's just part of just normal natural thing, and everybody now who disbelieves in God is at the same is the same as somebody who did so 500 years ago. I don't think that's as fair, nor is it. What I'm saying is more understandable for somebody to say they don't believe in God. Now there are stronger reasons for not doing so, which is why it's never going to be a issue, for salvation.
Correct. Few days, or few live streams earlier, you did or you commented. There's, I think, I don't know whether he's American or from British. He's from Westerner, but then he is now practicing Muslim. He's Dr. Jonathan Brown. You were aware about his
Yes. So I did a video about.
So I was finding it a bit strange, because again, it's my observation. The sir mentioned that people who are not don't accept hadith, not rejecting it, but not in a very traditional way and all, they lack humility. In fact, that it's the other way around. In fact, so people who are they are more extremist, and the other people who are critical of those things, not denying it, but critical, they are usually because they know in the Quran it mentions that the mu'minin, even when they walk in the Quran, it mentions when they walk, they have the humbleness, because they know that they cannot, the mountains and all will not fall. Whereas the people of the hadith, they will promote like he's a lion and he's like that and all. I mean, that's against humbleness.
Yeah.
So the point, if we look at the ground reality, is the other way around. The people of, they will have humility, they will not behead others, they will not use abusive language, they will be respectful, they will look after their neighbors, they will not look irrespective whether they are, it's a Hindu or other religion person. But
Well, I
then
mean,
yeah.
yes, I certainly understand that, but also,
Mhm.
the Quran is also, the thing about it, it does fit into this world. It does fit into this
Mhm.
world's test. I mean, it even mentions that for some people, it will increase them in their disease, right? The Quran talks about that for some people, the Quran will increase their rijs ila rijsihim, their disease upon their disease, right?
Correct.
And some people will increase them in guidance. Um, the Quran has that aspect, which I don't think Muslims explore
Mhm.
very much, right?
Yeah.
So people can take it's the Quran can be just as much as part of the test and trial of this world. It fits into
Mhm.
it as the rest
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the world is, right?
Correct,
In that
correct.
kind of way.
Yes, and again, I also feel that this aspect of, in coming times, Muslims will have to make sure that the disputes about the creedal, because that's never ending. I mean, if you will believe in God, you have to believe in certain type of God, and then you have to believe in this thing, or God has this thing, His throne is that, and then, so I mean, the creedal issue will not get, it's an unending thing, but the guidance aspect,
Yeah,
that is this thing, because at the end of the day, God is beyond time and space, so our mind cannot conceive, our mind cannot, there are a lot of black holes and all, we cannot conceive that, so how we will be able to conceive God? And these people are disputing God as this thing, he has hand and all that. So I feel, I mean, we should stay in our limit, because we are formed from sperm, I mean, and God is Hayyum Qayyum. We will not be able to understand the, I mean, God, the greatness of the glory of God, when God will manifest, when the day of this thing. So now making creedal disputes and this thing. So I
yeah,
feel it's a high time we should go away and go stick to the guidance aspect. What you
yeah.
feel? I mean,
Yes, I'm definitely agree that, well, that's the key. That's the whole point, right? Hudan lil
Mhm.
muttaqin. Let me. I've got another person come who wants
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
come
Sure,
on.
sure, sure.
So let me bring him
Jazakallah.
on.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much again
Yeah.
for coming on.
Yeah.
Okay, take care of yourself, Sana. And we have Alan. Hello, salam.
Alaikum salam, Khaled. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, fine, thank you. So I had a quick question concerning the verse that has been examined in today's live stream. It's mainly linked to its origins of interpretation, because the common dogma actually, how could I say, has the current interpretation of actually thinking that the Israelites actually became apes in the
Yeah.
proper sense of the term. So do you have any references, perhaps, how could I say, explanations for this origin of interpretation? Perhaps where they come from, or what caused
I,
this dogma to be applied?
I think it's just going to be. You have to understand sometimes that the early Muslims, the early Arabs, were not educated people, right? They just weren't educated people, and they weren't the people of, people tend to want to think like, traditional Islam wants to think that they were, very sophisticated in how they thought and how they understood things, and how they weren't, right? They weren't
Yeah.
a lot of the time. Even like, the thing of the prophet's wives, when near the end of the prophet's life, when they asked him, which one of you, when they asked him, he said something which they took from it that he is going to die soon, and then
Yes.
they said, which one of us will die first after you? And he said, the one which the one of the longest hand, and then atwalakum yaddan, right?
So
And
they
they
all
went over.
compared their arms, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were measuring the arms. So that's something that's like ijma'. That's ijma' of the ummahat al-mu'minin, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's consensus of the wives of the Prophet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And only later they realized, when the first one to die was I think it was Zainab, that they realized that it meant the one who was the most generous. Atwalakum yaddan means the one of the longest reach in her hands, means the one who
Of
gives the
course.
most charity, right?
Of course.
So they weren't these paradigms of understanding always, right? So when they came, so later on when these tafsirs came about, and of course one of the things I mentioned before is the Prophet never explained the Quran, right? He never sat there giving
Yes, of
tafsir,
course.
right? That doesn't exist. Okay, the Prophet did not explain or clarify the Quran because it doesn't need to be explained or clarified. But later, when people want to think that, it became a very mythical, the
Hocus pocus Islam, basically, as we
yeah,
call it.
became a
Yeah.
mythical thing because, and it has to do again with which elements of the early Muslim community came to the forefront, and which who ended up disseminating a lot of the tradition, right? And we had a lot of, I mean, the influence and impact of Ka'b al-Ahbar is phenomenal. People don't realize about him, but as Hassan Maliki says, he almost became like this hyperbole. He almost became like the mufti of the whole ummah during the time of Muawiyah, right? Ka'b al-Ahbar, and how much of that was ended up in Abu Huraira's literature, right? So
Yes.
Abu Huraira used to sit and narrate from the Prophet and from Ka'b, from both, right? And people said later that be careful of his narrations because people would leave and they would mix them up. They would narrate what he had said about from Ka'b, from the Prophet, and what he had said from the Prophet about from Ka'b. So it all just became a model, right? And because, of course, the expansion of the Muslims, so they went around and, of course, they absorbed a lot of this kind of folkloric mentality from different places. So where these tafsirs come from originally, they come from that. I mean, this is probably going to be something from somewhere. So somebody reads that who's basically a very sort of like just not an educated person. They read that and think,
course.
okay, yeah, God changed them to apes and pigs, right? But we don't have that. I mean, we have some of the people, some of the early Sahaba, the ones who had knowledge. الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ. The Quran talks about those who really had knowledge. Okay, they wouldn't look at things like this. They had a very deep level understanding, but they were sidelined, right? They were sidelined.
Cast aside, basically.
Yeah. I mean, when you count, like Hassan Maliki did a survey of the narrations, right?
Yes.
Between and you just look at the top narrators, the ones the narrators, the people who narrated more than 1,000 hadiths. You find that they were all people who are close to the authorities, right? Close to the
Obviously.
authorities, right?
Definitely.
And the people who were in a similar vein, like the easy example is Abu Huraira compared to Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas is one of the earliest Muslims, right? He's even related to the Prophet on his mother's side. He was a general of the Muslim army during the conquests, right? He was one of the 6 that could have become the caliph, right? He had all of his accolades behind him, right? So he was, and of course, much earlier than Abu Huraira. He comes in 3 years before the Prophet's death, right? But ultimately, they both live in Medina, right? And Sa'ad and Abu Huraira died the same year. The number of hadiths from Abu Huraira, and look at how many there are. And from Sa'ad, we have 150 only. 150, that's it, right?
That's for the
From
whole.
yeah, from the 6 collections in the Kutub al-Sitta, in the 6 collections, there's 150 hadiths from Abu Huraira. From Sa'ad. From Abu Huraira, there's something like, I forget the number, 1,400 or around 2,000 maybe, is it?
I have no idea, personally.
Yeah, but anyway, it's over 1,000, right? Over
Yes.
1,000. So this shows you, okay, so if that was happening, and this was with all of the other Sahaba, the ones who narrated over 1,000. And the reason why this was, of course, Abu Huraira became the governor for Muawiyah because of what he said, because basically he's supporting Muawiyah over Ali, right? So he became the governor. And he also used to speak like his nephew, but his son-in-law used to say, Abu Huraira used to, when Muawiyah would send him money, he would keep quiet when he about some of the things which Muawiyah didn't want him speaking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when he spoke, and when Muawiyah didn't send him money, he would speak. And it's at those times that he mentions those narrations which are against Bani Umayyah and things like this. But the point is, he was the governor there, okay? And while Sa'ad, he could have been, there's a possibility that he was actually poisoned, Okay, but it's this idea that, like, even now, I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, we wouldn't know about people like Hassan al-Maliki or these other people,
Obviously,
right?
that's definitely
You would
a
know
huge
nothing
factor.
about them. All you would ever hear is the voice of the official
General
scholars
public.
from the or the
Yeah,
official scholars from the minbars, and that's it, right? And so that was Abu Huraira. Okay, so that's why his narrations got thing. And then of course you look at the students. Students were also pro Banu Umayyah, right? Whereas the students of Sa'ad weren't, right? So that you end up having this chain over the first, the students and the students of the students. You find where they're all on one side. They're all around there's a certain group of Sahaba and close to the authorities, and so that's where all of the information comes from. The other people, they get ignored. Other people, they get ignored, and their narrations don't end up in anywhere, right? They get lost. Some people who are very, very famous, well, they should be very famous, are not famous at all. And they're forgotten because, again, just the way that the history played out. So when it came to tafsir, you find that most of it, it's coming, Ikrimah, Rabah, Ata. You have all of these same Mujahid. You have these same names coming up, and they're the ones who are given all of the tafsir. A few handful of people.
Of course.
Most of the tafsir is coming through them, and it's just their statements, right? None of it is even narrated from the Prophet, which is at least a good thing. So I don't know where these stories they just get made up, they get put in there. There's a lot of who knows where it comes from.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if there's a Jewish link to it.
Apparently, yes. I was gonna address that. Apparently, there's an article on Cambridge, basically from the School of Oriental and African Studies, which links that verse to some sort of biblical origin. I don't really remember the exact source, but I'll quote for you. This article argues that this scene reflects post-biblical traditions, referring to Numbers 11:19-20. This biblical passage leads with the Israelites who consumed quails that had come from the sea. They were doomed to partake of the meat until it came out of their nostrils and became loathsome to them. End of quote.
And became what? Sorry?
Loathsome. Loathsome. Loath.
Loathsome.
Yes, to them.
Oh, it became loathsome. Okay, and that's it. And there's no transformation to.
It's more of a but dysmorphia type of thing. Yeah, and so this is what kind of seems seems strange to me. It's that sort of like cross-examination between biblical tradition and post-prophet tradition. Was this sort of mixed, perhaps, in terms of like transmission between both cultures in a way, or was it purely because of the people and their lack of education? Because again, disruption of information comes from both the people and the leaders transmit them. And I think it's actually, historically speaking, at least, it's a big shame to have those disruptions of the perfect word of God be so easily corrupted in a matter of years, both by the people and the lack of understanding.
Well, it was happening during the Prophet's lifetime. There was tahrif happening while the Prophet was alive, right? The Qur'an actually mentions it. يحرفون الكلمة من بعد مواضعه. The Qur'an mentions it, and it has to do with the it's linked to the Jewish people as well, right? That among them, okay. So you have that verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah, which is the last surah to be revealed, talking about how there was this tahrif already underway, right? يحرفون الكلمة من بعد مواضعه.
Yes.
And you had يا أيها الرسول لا يحزنك الذين, O messenger, let it not depress you. So he saw this was happening. يا أيها الرسول لا يحزنك الذين يسارعون في الكفر. Don't let not distress you those who race in kufur. And it's again another example of how kufur is not atheism.
Linked to belief, or atheism. It's more linked.
Look, everybody at the time believed in God. Everybody was a Muslim at this time, right? Surah Al-Ma'idah, everybody became a Muslim. الذين يسارعون الكفر من الذين قالوا آمنا بأفواههم ولم تؤمن قلوبهم ومن الذين هادوا سماعون الكذب سماعون الكذب سماعون لقول آخرين لم يأتوك. And it says يحرفون الكلم من بعد مواضعه. They make tahrif, or they divert the words from after they've been put in their place, basically.
That's right.
The meanings have been established.
But it's kind of...
There's another verse where it says يحرفون الكلمة عن مواضعه. So they're not even letting the words arrive where they should be. The meaning of
Right.
the word, they're not letting it arrive. And then there's ones where after it's already arrived, then they are doing the tahrif there. I mean, it's a very this verse is very cryptic. It's telling us about
The status of society at this moment.
there's things happening. Yeah, there's things happening here. Okay,
And I find it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I find it rather ironic that it's part of the last surah of the Quran, almost as if it was kind of foreseeing, or at least leaving an open end towards the rest of history from now on, at least in the way that it represents society and the beliefs that spread on later on. But speaking on beliefs, or at least tahrif, why did it take place originally? What led people to actually do those sort of things with the living messenger among them? That's what kind of disrupts me, at least in my mind. Why did this take place?
Well, let's say it gives us a sort of a clue, because it says, يحرفون الكلمة من بعد مواضعه يقولون إن أوتيتم هذا فخذوه وإن لم تؤتوا فاحذروه. Right? So it says, if you are given this, okay, then take it, and if you're not, then basically be careful or stay away. It's there's allusions really in this verse, because it's not being explicit.
It's just, right.
I think it's almost certainly talking about the rulership, right? Rulership.
Because power is going to be transmitted after his death.
Yeah, so it's saying, if you're given leadership, then take it. But if you're not, then hold back, okay? And see what will happen, right? So some of the tahrif is regarding that. I mean, one clear one, for example, I think, is the invention of the narration that the prophets are not inherited, and what we leave behind is charity. So that was I don't think Abu Bakr invented it, but I think he took it off somebody else, because Abu Bakr was somebody who was a bit susceptible to the hypocrites. Right? What I mentioned, فيكم سماعون لهم, among you are those who listen to the hypocrites, and it's just ridiculous. Anybody would believe that the Prophet would tell Abu Bakr that Prophet's not inherited, what we leave as charity, and would not tell Fatima, the person who's supposed to inherit.
No, obviously not.
So, and that's why, of course, Fatima was angry with Abu Bakr. It wasn't because of the inheritance, because the first lie
that he accepted, and he basically
there was a straight away. The Prophet dies, and already there's a hadith which is brought out to supersede and divert the Qur'an.
Obviously, it's really depressing.
And so it happens. And the reason why did that happen? Well, he was, Abu Bakr got that from somebody. I don't think he made it, but he got it from somebody. And the purpose of it, of course, was to divert the funds, because Fatima would have inherited more. It wasn't just it was Khaybar and a few other things, and that would have been, of course, with her and her husband. Right?
Yes,
and it would have been a of course, hypocrites would want to keep that away from Ali.
The closest ones to the Prophet.
And the support, because and that way they kept people from supporting Ali's claim to the caliphate. He has nothing. He has no. He was poor. He had no wealth. Nothing. Right. So that was that.
Well,
so
really
there's sort of like sign in it in there, and there's a lot of these. The Quran contains a lot of these sort of illusions. If you start to study the history critically,
you understand it.
You can almost see. It's almost like it's drawing you a picture. It's almost like it's drawing you a picture. The very beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, where it describes basically the hypocrites there. It's a very, very interesting description.
I think those descriptions are that cryptic because it relates to the temporal aspect of the revelation, basically. Perhaps back then they weren't as cryptic as they are today because they specifically targeted people of that society at that time. So perhaps to us they may seem a bit more cryptic.
In a way, I think it's because there's deniability. Sort of like, what is it? It's going to name the people. They say,
obviously, because if it were one by one, it would have been a waste of time.
I mean, name the person. Okay, this is the person can deny it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But it says it in such a way that the intelligent people will be able to understand who is being.
It aims their hearts and intentions and basically all the other underlying aspects of the personalities that can't be described physically.
Little clues here and there. would help out.
It's a very vicious cycle, actually, especially in history and religion. It's always been this, how could I say, this lasting will for greediness and power related to revelations from God, which is, I'd say, it's just so weird to have those, to be exposed to that sort of like, common dogma, which originally came from, corruption and destruction by itself. And, when you grow up progressively, how could I say, being exposed to that aspect, it's kind of hard as a common Muslim, personally, me, alhamdulillah, it's been a very easy journey, but to others, it's very hard to detach yourself from that central household.
Part of it, of course, the Prophet was told to leave these some of the things which were invented, leave it be. Right? ذَرْهُمْ وَمَا يَفْتَرُونَ. Right? Leave them and what they think, because it's meant. Some of this is just meant. It's not like God made it, but it's meant to continue, so that every generation will be able to will be tested in a similar way, right?
But it's also a consequence of the actions, basically. It's sort of punishment, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, look, the evil. Let's put it this way: the forgerers are allowed to transmit their forgeries, and the truth is allowed to be transmitted, and so that the next generation will also have to choose between the forgeries and the truth.
Obviously, yeah.
And the generation after that, they will all continue like that. I mean, it's something which is being present with every prophet. I mean, the verse the verse which is talking about, people make about satanic verses, so it's got nothing to do with that.
Yes.
And God says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ عَدُوًّا شَيَاطِينَ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ. That God has made enemy to every prophet, shaitans of ins and jinn. يُوحِي بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ زُخْرَفَ الْقَوْلِ غُرُورًا. They inspire one to the other, embellished words of deceit. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ مَا فَعَلُوا. And if God had wanted, they would not have done it. فَذَرْهُمْ وَمَا يَفْتُرُونَ. So leave them and that which they invent. Why? The next verse says, وَلِتَصْغَى إِلَيْهِ أَفْئِدَةُ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ. So that the hearts, not the heart, the minds. The afidah means the minds, right? So the minds of those who have no faith in the akhirah will listen to that.
Right.
And so that they will be pleased with it. And so that they will take ma hum mukhtarifun, and that's it. So that they will take that, right? So,
but why the minds, not the hearts, in this verse in particular? Why is it addressed the minds, not the hearts?
The minds are that's what you use to figure out. So when God says the mind to the intellectual basically mind. I mean, I think we did a stream a while ago about the difference between the fu'ad and qalb.
Yes, right? I remember.
Yeah. So the afida, Allah says, in جعلكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة. He made for you the hearing and the sight, and the afida. The afida is the mind. So these are all like tools to be able to analyze, right?
Yeah, of course.
So the tools to be able to analyze, to hear, to see, to think. It's how you analyze the outside world. It's not the heart in terms of which is for the faith and the actions and the kufur and these things which are linked to the heart. Is more like to be able to analyze. So so that the minds of those who have no faith in the akhirah will listen to this basically.
Yes, obviously.
And then they will they will be pleased with it, right? So
right.
Like what? Let me give you an example, right? In the hadith, for example, that will say that the believer, no matter what he does, right? If you say La ilaha illallah, you'll enter Jannah.
We'll go to heaven, yeah.
Yeah, you say La ilaha illallah, no matter what, you enter Jannah. Okay? The minds of those who have no faith in the akhirah, they will love this. They will love this. Okay? وَلِيَرْضَوْهُ, and they will be happy with this. وَلِيَقْتَرِفُوا مَا هُمْ مُخْتَرِفُونَ. And because of this, they will end up doing all of the sins.
Yes.
Right? Okay, like preaches to like. Okay, so it's another way in which people are being. This world is supposed to be like a perfect test, right? So part of that is this. So part of this is this shayateen al-insi wal jinn making these things up, so that people will the people for them who are inclined to these lies of the shayateen, they will listen to that. And the people whose hearts are not like that, who will look at this and say, come on, it's ridiculous that a person can lie, cheat, steal, do whatever he wants, and he goes to Jannah. Okay, no, and so they will go away from that. Okay, so it's sifting. Okay,
Yeah,
it's one of the ways in which people are being sifted is through the presence of lies and truth, right? And to be able to identify the lies and then identify the truth.
So it's more of a antithesis between the heart and the mind, basically, in that context, as in, as you mentioned in the example, the mind itself will convince the listener of this hadith to consider it to be true, whilst the heart itself is the, how could I say, is the main
Yeah, so somebody
capacitor to
might.
actually
Yeah,
overcome that.
somebody might. I mean, the faith in the akhirah. That would be in the heart, right?
Yeah.
لا يؤمنون بالآخرة. They have no faith in the akhirah, and so because of that, their minds will love this kind of stuff, right? And so they'll say, yes, okay, brilliant. I can do whatever I want, and I go to Jannah, and it's fine. Just say La ilaha illallah, I go to Jannah, or
That's madness.
I fast in Arafah, and all my sins are
Or
wholly
wiped from before, yeah. As in,
all of this, all of that
you
kind of
fast the
stuff.
entire month of Ramadan, all your sins are wiped, yeah. Because people, I feel like there's this link between rituals and like instant gratification, Rituals are more of a process towards an end, rather than an end in itself, The whole point of rituals themselves are to purify yourself, not in the sense of that, it's like a slab wiping off off the board itself. It's as in, you have this tool, use it, and later on you'll be guided towards doing better things in life. It's not automatic. It's not a game of points, whether or not you have more points, more negative points or more positive points. And that's what most people, I think, don't understand, because I guess they want an easy way out of responsibilities, I'm guessing. I don't know. I can't really talk for those people at the same time. It's just so weird how people would trade the path of honesty and the hardship for an easy path full of lies and just deceitfulness. It's mind-boggling at times. It's even sickening in the heart. It's sickening to hear, to listen to, and to just see those things at the same time. It's absolutely abhorrent. It just completely removes the entire process of humanity and our test in this world. If everything was as easy as they say, as they claim, if I fast this month, then everything will be wiped away from none of my sins will be wiped away. Then what's the point of actually trying? That's the whole thing. Because when you talk to people,
exactly.
Yeah, go
I mean, the Quran never has this sort of easy way to, Jannah is promised in the Quran after big things, and hell is promised in the Quran after big things. These are after there's a lot of conditions mentioned in those.
No, but there shouldn't be much fear concerning that. And as long as you keep true to yourself, you should be fine. At least, inshallah, everything will be fine.
It's all big things, yeah.
Well,
Let me go through. Huh?
Yeah, just God bless you, my friend. Honestly, people like you should be more exposed to the main media compared to more prominent figures whom I shall not name. I'm gonna keep the names of the channel. And I really hope that maybe in the future more people could perhaps try to have this type of, not necessarily kind of secular thought, but more for a open-minded kind of aspect to Islam, and be more progressive and be more open. Anyways, thank you so much for this very interesting conversation. God bless you, my friend.
You too. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. All right, let me go quickly try. At least maybe, I don't know if I'll be able to go through these comments. So yes, that's true. I have the problem I have for progress in Islam. The departure of the orthodoxy in Islam caused more disarray and confusion. Yeah, I mean, one issue with that's true. It does cause some disarray and confusion, but among the problems, though, sometimes is wanting to have set structure and set rules where there's no need for it. So we get used to the structure and the rules of the orthodoxy, and we want that to be replaced with something else, right? So that, if, for example, and that's why people, for example, who reject hadith, they want to find the way to pray in the Quran. There's no way to pray in the Quran. The Quran doesn't give you a way to pray, okay? But they try to find one in there, and then they argue between themselves exactly how you pray from only the Quran. It's not going to be there. It's not there, right? And should be able to let go of that sort of thing which has been trained in us, to want that. Okay, you can pray I pray the traditional prayer. Right? I pray the normal 5 times a day prayer. But the only thing which has changed in me seeing sort of this more Quran-centered approach is understanding that that isn't the only way to pray. That there isn't some specific format of prayer which if I don't do it, my salah will be rejected. You can pray the way the Orthodox Jews pray, and it will still be salah. You can pray a whole new prayer, make up a whole new way to pray, and it will still be salah. Okay, and the things which are important for salah are mentioned in the Quran, and they are not the the physical routine of it. Hassan, I don't know if he's still here. Do you think this might be implying atheist? لا يهلكنا إلا الدهر. No, I don't. Again, I don't think that that's even implying atheists, because it's just saying that we will die and that's it, and that's the thing that will destroy us, and that's it. Will be gone forever. But that doesn't imply that that there isn't a God. The person who says that doesn't necessarily have to mean that God doesn't exist. The issue is of the balance, the stringent attitude of Orthodox Sunnis, and and this conflicting ideas of the progressive Islams and also the Quranists as well, some disarray. So yes, I would agree with that. But just as long as people remember not to let these things like override the focus on guidance, right? You just have to remember that. So they can all be in disarray, right, about how to pray, how to fast, when to fast, even as some Quranists say that Ramadan is a different Ramadan, right? They can all be in complete disarray about all of that, okay? But as long as they're united on taqwa, on birr, on ihsan, on these things, on staying away from aggression, transgression, they're all united against against the project of shaitan, right? Al-adawa wal-baghdha, hatred, animosity, fahsha, to say about God that which you don't know. The other things will slowly start to get into place, I think. Well, I hope, right? The longer that, because this is very sort of new, the idea of progressive Islam, or the world that sort of like the internet has opened up for people to be able to share their ideas and thoughts and sort of slowly start to coalesce into something more meaningful. Who knows how long that will take? I mean, remember that the traditional Orthodox Islam, how long did that take to coalesce into something? Right? People don't know this, but the early Muslims had very wide. They had opinions that people would think, how right now? Okay, they had very differing opinions on a lot of things, right? And slowly things got put together, right? And a lot of the times it's because of political authority, that the unity that you see in Orthodox Islam is not, and which brand of Orthodox Islam is Orthodox Islam is not because of people hashed it out and figured it out. It's because in the end a political authority chooses one, and everybody else, the common people, will follow suit. The 4 madhabs were chosen by a caliph, right? Before that, there were many madhahib, and then one caliph decided that all the muftis in the land should only give their fatwas according to these 4 madhabs. And so that led to, many madhabs, many other opinions just dying out, because now everybody has to train and study according to these madhabs. And so the other ones, died out. Sometimes it's just that way. Even the ascendancy, like the Mu'tazilis, when were they up, right? When a caliph was supporting them. The Mutawakkil came and supported the Hadith people, okay, and persecuted the Mu'tazilis. Then the what they call now Ahl Sunnah came to the prominence, right? So it all comes down to, a lot of the times, that's how it is. In Morocco, they would follow the Maliki madhab, and for centuries they would pray with their hands on their side. But when the king started praying with his hands folded, everybody started praying with their hands folded. even if the other madhabs were arguing of the Maliki madhab for however long, talking about how you should fold your hands and not put them on your side. When the king did it, everybody did it. The arguments didn't matter, right? The people who convert Malaysia and Indonesia, these places, Islam spread there. People think because of the trade and these kinds. No, it's because the rulers became Muslim. So let us get a Qur'anist or progressive Islam ruler, and we'll have that. I mean, now we have it. By the way, what's his name? Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia. He is basically rejecting now singular hadith and saying we should only accept the mass narrated hadith, right? Which is basically what a lot of people who are close to being Qur'anist would say. That's what he says, right? And as soon as and some of the people in Saudi who are very who are basically extremists, calling people towards extremism and this and that. People argued with them till the cows came home, right? Writing against extremism and this, and they would just, defend their positions. Okay, but Mohammed bin Salman suddenly declares that this mentality of Islam is wrong, and the next day you have these imams, publicly saying they've made tawbah and that they are on the religion of Mohammed bin Salman. I remember showing that to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, miskeen, he's afraid for his life." The scholar just suddenly says, "No, I've made tawbah from all of this stuff that we used to say before, and now I declare that I am on the religion of Mohammed bin Salman. That's my religion." Right? There you go. Right? That's how it is. So get us a Qur'anist leader, and we'll have lots of Qur'anists united around something. Yeah, the Quran definitely assumes that its audience believes in God. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Afillahi shak. Yeah, that's a very good verse for that. Afillahi shak is exactly like you said here, a rhetorical question. That there is no doubt in God. There's just atheism. People, it's just a very modern thing, isn't it? Atheism. Who would be an atheist in the 6th century Arabia? Yeah, okay, yeah. So recognizing something as true but still turning away. Yeah, you can say that is a form of kufur, certainly. But that's why we shouldn't call it belief or disbelief. The person who believes something to be true but turns away, he still believes the thing to be true, even if he turns away, right? It's not that. And when somebody believes God to be true but turns away from God, what does that mean? Turn away from God, right? Let's say somebody believes God to be true but turns away from him. How? Turns away from him by I turn away from God, but I'm still going to be, honest, be good to my parents. I won't kill anybody. It's basically turn away from God to what? To what? To what God has commanded, right? It's more complicated than that. There's no turning away from God. Just what? Being what? Angry at God for what? I don't know. So it depends. I mean, sometimes somebody the idea of God they are turning away from is just the idea that the religious people have given them of God. Yeah, so it can be too with signs or with truths. So this I think is closer to takzeeb bi ayatillah, the rejecting the signs of God, and what does that mean? I mean that's something which I need to look into more. من الذين يكفرون بالله ورسله ويريدون أن يفرقوا بين الله ورسله ويريدون أن نؤمن ببعض ونكفر ببعض. Yeah, so this is another example of that. So those who يكفرون بالله ورسله, who do kufr with Allah and His messengers, and they wish to divide between God and His messengers, saying we believe in some and disbelieve in others. Well, we reject some and not reject others, and they wish to seek a way between that. Okay, there's another example. Like, what are they doing? Are they saying, we have kufur in God and His messengers, right? And then we believe in other messengers. Well, if they believe in other messengers, then they believe in God as well, right? So what's happening here is they are, if they say they believe in some and disbelieve in others, right? The some who they believe in are still saying believe in God, right? So it's not about that. It's about this kind of this idea of kufr that and the last of the verse says "Ulaikumul kafirun haqqa," right? I think those are the true kafirun. So these true kafirun actually have iman in some of the messengers and in God. Okay, but they are called truly kuffar for rejecting us. Because why is that the case? I mean, the idea behind this is, if you have faith in something for itself, okay, you have faith in it no matter who it comes from. Okay, if you really have faith in that thing because of that, right? But if your faith in it isn't really because of that thing, but because who has brought it to you, then you are really a kafir with regard to that thing. Okay, in that kind of way. If you have, if you trust it. So this is that idea that by rejecting something which is the same from somebody else, it's like, you're really rejecting that thing itself. Okay, what you really have faith in is your own selection between this or the other. But let me get back to that. I'm getting kind of tired. Let me quickly see ahead how many comments I have. I'll go through them quickly now. I prefer you to be the only person on the stream because most people on the stream don't understand what they are talking about. Well, it's okay. We need to be expansive, I suppose. I've come to the conclusion that everybody believes in God because my definition was simply the origin, the creator, many different perceptions of God. Yeah, I mean, just the other thing about it, look, this is something which I didn't mention, is a lot of these verses which says "Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat," right? They don't say "Inna alladhina amanu billah." It doesn't say those who have faith in or believe, if you want, in God. It just says faith. It's sort of like left open. Okay, what does it mean, faith? Is it faith in the akhirah? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْآخِرَةِ? Faith in what? So it's, in the end, there's a way to look at this where you have to understand that in this world, the reason why is faith important? Because without faith, it's very difficult to do anything good, right? In the world the way it is. Okay, you have to have some sort of faith in goodness itself, faith in the future, hope that things will be better. Now, when you go out into the street and you see somebody, a poor person, and you want to give him some charity, you do that out of faith that what you're doing will make things better for him or will be better. If you had zero faith in this action that you're doing, zero faith that it will matter in the future, you would not do it, right? In that way, faith is almost it's like a prerequisite to action. It's that kind of thing which will allow you to do a good action, to do an action which is not self-serving, but for others. You have to have some kind of faith. You have to have some kind of hope, right? You have to have some idea that this matters. The way you do it matters. Okay, that's a type of faith as well. So a lot of the verses, that there are verses which say "Alladhina amanu billah," but they're very few. Those are the ones which specify those who have faith in God, right? "Alladhina amanu billah." But a lot of the verses just say "Alladhina amanu," right? They're just talking about "Alladhina amanu," and often that means just the believers, as in the community around the Prophet Muhammad. Sometimes that's all. That's really that's mostly meant by it. Okay, but amanu billah, I forget the number. I think it was 14, right? If you search it up on like an app or something, and you look for search, put in amanu billah and search, only 14 verses from the whole Quran. Only 14 verses say amanu billah, right? Amanu billah. So that's pretty interesting. Whereas, amanu wa amilu salihat or amanu or something else is a lot more, one which doesn't specify iman billah. And then there's also those which talk about the leading amanu billahi wal yawm al akhir, right? These are put together a lot as well, because without iman in the yawm al akhir, the sort of faith in God, again, because of the world being as it is, it becomes it gives a wrong image about God, right? So if you have faith in God, if you like the problem of evil that people say, right? If God was all good, right, He wouldn't let bad things happen, and if He was all powerful, no, well, that only matters. That's only true if there's no Yawm al-Akhir, right? If there's no next life where there will be redress, okay? Which is why the two most important imans is to have faith in God, and with that you have to have faith in akhirah. Otherwise, it doesn't work. What's to say? If you believe in the Big Bang or nothing, that is still your God, your origin. I suppose, you have to basically speak to people about it, but in the end, doesn't know what he's talking about. I wish he. Okay, I think that's somebody else. Sectarian, I believe so. It's not always a requirement to believe in God. Something they don't believe in God was on this insane path towards God. Yeah. I've mentioned this before, but you have that C.S. Lewis, right, where he says, at the end of his judgment, right, the Narnia series, right, he says to those people, to the worshippers of Tash, two good people who were wrongfully worshipping Tash, that everything you did that was good, you really did it for me, even if you didn't know it, right? Sincerity, the truth of what is revealed, etc., etc. But when those who are not equal, but you are sincere and a good person, submit to any truth. All right, I think I'll just move on sort of towards the end. I don't want to miss if anybody put in something. There are many paths to God, respect for that. Right, yes. Yes, Khalid is my name. Because it's been revealed to us true. When I think about us looking at it from one perspective. All right, let's move on. Adriana. Follow the sunnah to be safe, accept Jesus to be safe. All the same, but they don't notice. Yeah. Roxana. Thank you for the stream. I have many off-topic cues. Would it be possible to have a random Q&A session, or am I okay to ask certain cues here? Yes, you could have asked certain cues here, but yeah, why not? Let's do a random Q&A. Okay, there's a now there too. Thank you. And came to the stream. We'll comment tomorrow after learning of the topic. Thank you. Adriana, God says that you can't turn away from Him. That is why it's important to follow the scripture. You can choose to turn away from revelation, not from God. Is modern generation different from the seventh generation? I don't know what that means, but yeah, pretty different, I'd say. No, same and different. Let me go right to the bottom. If anybody has something which they put I didn't get to, then please put it, because I'm going to go to the bottom of this. The way we are speaking makes it seem a very small minority of people who would go to hell. Why do verses like filling hell with men and jinn and stones so opposed to Baruch's mistake? Okay, that's a good question. I mean, I did a stream where what was it? It was called Hell is Smaller. It's a very interesting thing when you look at in the Quran about the description of hell and Jannah. So Jannah is described as huge. عرضها السماوات والأرض. Its width is the heavens and the earth, right? It's big, right? But hell is described as something mobile. Okay, so it moves. Okay, and it seems small. It's going to be pulled by what 70,000 angels or something. It comes across as this idea that it's small. Okay, now the other aspect of filling it. Okay, filling it. Imagine if you had like I think I gave this analogy that if you have a prison, like a state or a country, and it decides to build a prison. Okay, now let's say it builds a prison and it has 50,000. It could take 50,000 inmates. Okay, but there are only a few, sort of like a few, 20,000 or 10,000 criminals in the country. That means you've overestimated the criminals. You've overestimated how much of the prison you need, right? You haven't been accurate in putting it. If you get if you are able to predict the number of criminals perfectly, then you'll build a prison at exactly the right capacity, which will be filled. Okay, whether that prison is small or big, again, depends on that. So that's how I see that. It's actually might seem counterintuitive, but it's actually a mercy that if God says He's going to fill hell, that means He's only made enough hell for those who will be in there. There's no extra space. He's not like, oh, damn, it didn't get to be filled up. Right? There's extra space. Right? Imagine that having like hell is not full. It's not full. There's extra hell. Right? What does that mean? That means that there was like, okay, I was expecting you guys to be worse than this, right? I was expecting humanity to be worse, right? I had more space, and it's not filled, right? No, it isn't like that, right? So hell will be filled because only enough hell was made for that. Okay, so the idea that hell is sort of smaller than Jannah. But I'm getting tired here. Anyway, I'm at the last of the comments. Read it. They will dwell therein for all the time that heaven and earth endure, except as your Lord wills. God will not injustice, even an atom's weight. Exactly. Right. So I think that was the last stream. We talked about that, about time and hell and how I consider that the phrase Khalidina fiha to be more like timelessness. But anyway, that's enough for today. It's been a long stream, almost 3 hours, but I think it was worth it. Yes, exactly. Yes, you can ask, yes. So about the eternity or not? Oh, yes, go ahead. So is hell eternal or not eternal? That was I think it was in the last stream. So you can watch that as well about it. But generally, first of all, the idea that people will be leaving. So in Orthodox Islam, there's the idea that some people enter hell and then they will be taken out. They will leave. There's no indication in the Quran that people will be taken out of hell, right? That doesn't exist. But there's this indication that there's khalidina fiha, right? And then there's one of the things that people say that for which they say that hell will come to an end is you have khalidina fiha for hell, right? And khalidina fiha abadan, like to be there and forever and ever, usually used for Jannah. So sometimes you have the two verses where in one verse it talks about going to hell forever, and the other one says going to Jannah forever and ever, right? So there's a difference there, and people use that. And apart from 3 verses where hell is used, forever and ever, it's used for hell. But afterwards, there's this small clauses about it, right? So khalidina fiha abadan hatta idha, right? Until this. or Khalidin. I forget the verses, to be honest, right now, getting kind of tired. But then there's that. So the way I see it is, I think that, and also there's the people in hell will be between life and death, right? So there are verses which talk about that. ثُمَّ لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا وَلَا يَحْيَا, right? They will be between life and death. And talks about the akhirah, the Jannah, that هي الحيوان, that is like real life. Hayawan, like an emphatic word for like a real life, where you're really alive. Okay? So I have also this idea that in hell people are like closer to death, right? Of course, people look at it as like a torturous way, right? Closer to death, but like not between life and death. Okay, so there's that. But the main thing, I think I put it in the last stream, which is, I think that time is not, it's not a meaningful thing. After this world. So in the next world, it's not going to be, people will be in hell forever. What does that mean? You're going to think of that in terms of like numbers, like years, centuries, going on, this kind of cumulative addition of thing, right? If you do that, then it's a complete injustice. You can't get justice in that kind of way, right? Because if everybody's in there in that kind of way, it doesn't work. Quran talks about إِنَّمَا تُجْزَوْنَ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Okay, so I put it in terms of like calculus, and I put this equation in the last stream as well, that you can have it in kind of like this. If you think about limits, you can have on the x-axis time going on for infinity, but the graph will only rise to a certain amount, right? And I made a function using the tan, made an equation using the tan function, that you can select a certain amount of punishment, right? And that will punish, and the time, so the punishment will get up to there, and it will take all eternity to reach that specific level. So that's, of course, it's just an analogy. Ultimately, what do we actually know? What we actually know is that justice is the concept of justice in the akhirah is going to be the same as we have here, right? It's not going to be that when we get there that there'll be like this new kind of justice we just don't understand, right? We all understand what is justice and injustice here, right? And so how God is going to square that, right? That people will be in hell forever, but at the same time they will, we will not, nobody will be punished except for what they did, right? إِنَّمَا تُجْزَوْنَ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, right? How that's going to be put together, that's something that's going to happen in the akhirah, right? I think that the idea about it is simply as that that's kind of like a world of timelessness. Okay, khalidina fiha is like timelessness, like eternity in an hour. And I think I put that in there. You're welcome about that. Yes, Ibn Taymiyyah, Hassan Radwan here, he did do, I don't know if he did translation, right? Okay. I think he translated it. But Ibn Taymiyyah, he points out that the Quran makes it explicit that the garden and its provisions will never expire, whereas the verses about the hell never make such an explicit statement. Yeah, there is that. I mean, it's. I get his statement. But he argues that the Quranic verses such as Khalidina fiha abadan do not imply the eternity of hell itself, but rather to the absolute inescapability of the decree of punishment. Okay, I've never thought of it in that way, but yes, that works as well. To Ibn Taymiyyah's last treatise before he died. Yeah, Ibn Taymiyyah has some amazing, absolutely amazing insights, but at the same time, he's the one person who's one scholar who's created so much trouble with some of his other stuff, but he does have some. He's a great intellect. Let's get that. Yeah, exactly. Hassan translated his treatise, so I'm not sure if you can link that here, or maybe later on the bottom of this, the comments of this stream. Okay, brilliant. So he already has it. All right, excellent. Okay, so we'll end it there. Thank you everybody for attending, and inshallah, we'll do this again soon. I might do it tomorrow, but we'll see about that. To talk about the Alexander the Great myth or legends or history. Okay, and Dhul Qarnayn. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.